Hello, 1 minute. I have to set up something really quick. Wait. Ah, where's the fucking folder? Ah. Hey, there it is. Okay, hello. Hi. I don't know what my backgrounds are doing. There we go. Whoops. So, today I'm going to be repairing my coat, which I've been putting off for a fucking while. This is my big, lovely coat. It's got a few places that need repairs. I think one of the first things is I'm going to remove the hood so that there's less fucking fabric around, because I don't need all that. Also wanted to start my little background music.
What's up, Chillville? We had some...
Oh. Alrighty. Let's turn that down a little bit. Alrighty. So I'm going to take the hood off of this first things first. And I also wanted to talk about some of my most beloved childhood books. I basically just went through my bookshelf and pulled off all of the books that I have, but there were a couple of books that I wanted to mention that I do not have on my bookshelf. That would be specifically Flawed Dogs by Berkeley Breathed. This book is just a delight. It's a book about fucked up little dogs taking over the Westminster Dog Show and showing everybody what's for. And it's also about, you know, it doesn't matter how weird and ugly you are, you still have character and you still have heart. So one of the things I wanted to do was work on the buttons, because we've got a lot of these strings coming off of that one, and so I thought I'd just maybe take it out and redo it. So I need to actually get my sewing things. Whoops. Oh god. Here's my giant fucking stack. These are all the books I'm going to be talking about today. Oh yeah, and there's the other one. That's the other book. This is not a book I read as a child. This is a book that I read as an adult, like within the last 2 years. But it fucks so severely. I set up my slideshow wrong. Go back. Fucking The Murderbot Diaries is such a good series. I'm obsessed with it. I'm rereading it again. I've reread it like 5 times now because that's how much I love it. Because it's really, really good. So if you like science fiction, if you think about artificial intelligence, all of that sort of stuff, The Murderbot Diaries is for you. It's a really fun book series. I fucking love it. So, let's get the majority of this off the desk. Please read The Murderbot Diaries. It is so good. Flawed Dogs is a really fun one. It's got great illustrations. I finally remember the name of it years down the line. I was so sad I couldn't remember the name of it for a while, and I kept looking up like book about weird dogs, and I couldn't find it. And then finally I asked my friend about it, and like the genius they are, they managed to find it, and I was like, oh my god, you figured it out, thank you so much. So I'm just removing the button because I'm gonna sew it back on. I'll also teach you how to sew a button today, I guess. How fun. Let's see how these are pretty in there. Just seeing if they're very attached or not. But basically the climactic scene of the book is that all the dogs dress up so that they look pretty. They have the one on the cover the lion. He's got this little tuft on his hair, which is like the most desirable possible trait for a dog to have, except that he also like went through some fucking experimentation and lost a leg. So they have to make him a leg out of a chicken bone, and all of the other weird dogs that are his friends end up dressing up in a human suit and pretending to be his owner. It's quite delightful. This book is fascinating because it also features what I'm pretty sure is like a drag queen or like a transgender individual. There is a character called Madame, which already is like, okay. But she is a cat that has made herself a costume in order to look like a dog. She's got a little snout. Is this just like a full thing? I'm gonna compare the thickness. Yeah, it's about the same thickness. Yeah, I knew that the thread on there was a little thicker, so I wanted to get embroidery floss for it, which is why I have embroidery floss for it. Hooray. And now I need to get an embroidery needle, which is usually a little bit longer and has a wider eye at the end. That's the hole where the, what's it called, thread goes through. Oops, don't fucking drop all my needles all over the place. There you go. Yep, so the eye is a little bit bigger on the end of there than normally, which makes it easier to use with embroidery floss or thicker threads and such. So Mistress dresses up as a dog and speaks in a rather affected manner and says, I feel like a dog on the inside. And it's like, okay, this is like a drag queen, a trans person, and that's fucking great. Because this is an old book. I think it came out in like the 2000s. But it's also really just a funny kind of concept. And I just really love it. It's so fun. Okay. Whee! Okay. So now let's figure out about how much I need. Probably not that much because it's just one button. Snip that. And then tie a little knot in the end. And Mistress is the one who helps Max, the lion, our main character, dress up so that he can successfully infiltrate the dog show and meet his owner again. And they have a lovely little reunion. It's great. They also end up ruining all the other dogs who are participating while they're all having their little break. They go around and they dye their fur different colors and give them weird haircuts and all sorts of things so that they all look utterly tragic. It's so funny. There's my thimble, so I don't stab my fingers hard. I think one thing about thimbles is it's mostly so that you can push the needle without hurting your finger, because that is a little bit harsh on your finger, but that doesn't hurt at all because you've got the plastic covering on it, or, you know, metal. Some of them are made of metal. Just depends on the thimble. So I can see where the button was originally. I'm gonna try and make sure it's lined up that way. So button sewing is pretty basic. There's just one technique that people are like, you have to do this or it doesn't work, and it's called a shank, which is after you have done the majority of the sewing on your button, you want to go around the threads that you have sewn. And that helps with stability and with keeping all the threads from coming undone. So it is a useful technique. It's just a lot more simple than I think it sounds. People make button sewing sound a lot more complicated than it does, in my opinion. Everyone's like, you have to learn how to sew a button. And I'm like, it's really not that. It's like 2 steps. It's really easy. But as you can see, all the buttons have 2 connectors right there. They don't go in a square pattern. You can do different patterns. Some buttons are sewn in an X. So it'd be a thread that way and a thread that way. These ones I'm just going to try and match the rest of the coat because I've already got some examples of what's going on. And I'm just feeling my way through. I'm not looking, obviously. That's a good thing, is that you can sort of feel your way around of where your needle needs to go. Of course, it's not working. Oh, there we go. I'm going to pull that through, pull it tight, and there we go. It's also good to do multiple loops just for, again, stability. So I'm doing at least 2 on each, and then I'm going to do 2 on the other one, and then I might go and do a third on both. It's rather thick fabric, and my sweaty fingers keep not being able to hold the needle. So VOD dogs is a really wonderful thing. There's also, I was going to mention, and then I got distracted. There's technically 2 versions of the book. The first version was just a illustrated book just about VOD dogs with little like limericks, poems for each of them about their little things. Like one of them was the illustrated dog, a dog with a bunch of tattoos. Oh dear. Look, I got a loose string. I gotta pull everything tight to avoid that happening. Okay, let me separate those. That's the one that's connected. Come on, I want you pulled tight. I want you caught up on. Stop it. Okay, being silly for me. Let's try and pull the other thread here. Nope, 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 they're all tangled together again, God. I think that was it. Nope, no it wasn't. Just exchanging tension, really. I don't have to undo the whole thing, come on. That's pulling from there. So that's not the one I want then. It's like it's caught somehow. Oh, nope. There we go. Look at that. Short little thread. Hooray. Now I just gotta pull the rest tight. Let me find my needle. Okay. Whoops. Got that backwards. No, that's pulling on the wrong place. Okay, so tension is all fucked. And there's just one string that's deciding to be a dick. Yikes. So let's see. First one on my stack of real life books is Pish Posh, which is a funny little book. It's an interesting one. It's basically about, I think the main reason that I love this book is because our main protagonist, Claire, is just living the most blessed life that a child could imagine. But it's about her wanting to sort of... There's my fucking issue. There's a string I didn't get yet. Come here, I can see you. It's a book about, like, she has this blessed life where she has a top floor apartment with 1,000,000 rooms with all the things you can want. There's a seashore room where there's a fake ocean that has waves in it. And there's an amusement park room where she's got her own little Ferris wheel. And it's so cool and so fun. But she's incredibly lonely because she's all alone. And her mom is like a very busy businesswoman and never gives her the time of day, essentially. And so she's just sitting alone in all these rooms. And she's like, no, my life is perfect. What are you talking about? And she meets someone from the outside world who introduces her to, like, yeah, there's like other people out here, and it kind of is cool in its own way, even though it's not, you know, the gilded cage that you've been stuck in. And sort of learns that, you know, there's more to life than just the things that you have. There's cool things on the outside world too, which is a lesson that she needed to learn. So that's a fun little story. But, like, the descriptions of her house, of all of the different rooms and things, are so fun. All of the, like, stuff that she has, like the amusement park room, and she's got one room with a giant tree in it that, like, she climbs up the whole tree and can see all of New York from underneath it. It's so fun. Oh my god. At this point, I might just restart. This is getting annoying. There's so much fucking weird tension going on. Ugh. Supposed to be repairing it, not making it look worse. Wah. Wah wah. Like, what is that? Come on. The other problem with embroidery floss is it's actually like a bunch of little threads, and then they do this sort of shit to you. Annoying. Let's see. Next book. Put that one away. Oh god, this one. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I think it kind of gave me a complex, but you know what? Depression does weird things to you. This is called The Woman in the Wall. This is one of the, like, books that deeply affected me in my, like, whole life and everything. Actually, get more light. It's a little bright, but whatever. I could probably use a better camera, but, you know, this is the one I got. So this is about Anna, who is a very, very shy child. Her mother says that she has a face like a glass of water, that she will disappear if you weren't looking right at her. And she does disappear if you are not looking right at her. That literally happens. And one day when Anna is very young, her mother decides that she should start going to a real school, and she brings in the most horrifying woman that Anna has ever met, who ends up accidentally scooping Anna up and putting her into her handbag and taking her outside. And Anna is then dumped out of the handbag into the great wide world and promptly develops agoraphobia. She sees the sky and the vastness of it and thinks it is just terrifying, and runs back inside and vows to never leave the house again. And her mom tries to talk to her to say, it's okay, I know it was scary, but we still have to go to school and all of that. But Anna's done at this point. And she's a very clever little girl, and so she enacts a plan. Why is my fucking avatar doing that? Sorry. God. Let's just tear this all out and start over. It's clearly not working out. Okay. Fine. Giving up. Yay. And so Anna enacts her plan. She begins to build a house, a place for herself within the walls of her house. She finds a place to put false walls, and she builds a facade, and she hides herself among the bones of her house. She's living behind the walls of the house. She can go into most every room because she's small, just a child. And so she can sneak around behind the walls and no one can find her. Okay, that looks better. Now we'll start again. Goddamn. What a time. Let's make sure this is all sitting nicely. I think it is. And then get it back through our needle. And so for years, Anna lives behind the walls of her house. And at first, her family tries to contact her and try to convince her to come out, but she won't budge. She's too scared to come out. She doesn't come out anymore. She imagines that she's living like her father, who disappeared one day in the Library of Congress. She likes to imagine him often, about how he's probably still there, stealing people's lunches, eating the paste from the leftover paste from books to survive. What she eventually will realize is that her father is most likely dead, but that's a revelation that comes a few years down the line. So I'm going to make sure every one of my threads is pulled tight so I don't fucking do that shit again. And as time goes by, her family sort of forgets that she was ever a real girl, and they just imagine her as part of the house. They'll start talking to the walls, and she'll only find half of what they're saying. Like, her mother says washer, and she assumes that the washer in the kitchen sink needs to be replaced, when really her mother was asking about the clothes washer, and if she thought it could be repaired or if it needed to be replaced. Or her sister will ask for a new skirt, and so she'll say, okay, I'll make you a skirt. Except the sister really wanted a skirt for her doll. All those sorts of things like that. And her mother, no matter what room she's in, will press a kiss to her hand and then press it to the walls of the house. Which is sweet, but also shows that Anna has become part of the house. She's the woman in the walls now. She's not a woman, really. But she lives her best life. And years pass. These are all nice and tight. Yep. So years pass, and eventually her sisters become teenagers, and then the house is filled with sounds and with people. It's not noticeable that Anna is taking food because all of the other teenagers are also taking food. There's a ravenous horde on the daily in her home. She has to do her best to deal with it. She can no longer really leave the walls of her house. There's too many people there at all hours of night. Her older sister has become an extreme social butterfly, with lots of friends and boys and everyone coming around to the house at all hours, visiting all the rooms. So she stays behind the walls for fear of getting caught. But that's okay, because she's built a little revolving door in the back of the kitchen cupboard, so she doesn't starve or anything. Oh god, there's a fucking string that got disconnected. Great. I'm gonna try and ignore it for now, and then maybe I can take it out later. It's probably what happened to the other button that was on here, is some of the strings just came undone. Okay, let's do this. Pull the string out. It's gonna end up dropping my needle. Alright then, my embroidery thread is a little thinner, but that's okay. Bundle that up and put it out of the way. Find the ends and put it back on my needle. And eventually, Anna finds in the cracks a little note addressed to A. Addressed to her? What? And it says, basically, I love you. You'll never read this, probably, but I love you. And she freaks the fuck out, understandably, and is like, someone knows I'm here, someone cares about me, this is from a stranger, it's from the mysterious F. Who could F be? What kind of person has a name that starts with F? That's a very rare letter. And she starts to exchange notes with this person and builds a relationship. She leaves him some little cookies in the kitchen. She says, go check the kitchen. There's something there in the cupboard. And gives him cookies. She's very awkward. She asks, like, do you have any allergies? And then she asks him to measure himself so she can make him a shirt. And he's like, I had to ask my dad, and he thought I was really weird for wanting to measure my neck. I wasn't sure what you meant by measuring my neck also. So I measured how long it is, which, like, I don't know how that counts, and I also measured around my neck. Of course you want, like, the around the neck, because then you can figure out how big the collar of a shirt has to be. But, like, he doesn't fucking know about sewing clothes the way she does. So they build this whole little relationship. Okay, so I'm gonna come back out of the fabric, but behind my button. I'm not actually going through one of the holes. And then I'm gonna do a button shank. So all that is you take your thread and you wrap it around a couple times. And that just helps with stability, with your button staying in place with the threads not coming undone. So I wrapped it around, and then I'm going to go back through to the back side of the fabric, underneath the button, where you can't really see it. And then I'm going to go whoop, 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 on the back side, and I'm going to tie it off. So using my usual method of go under a previous stitch. Ow, I just stabbed myself. It's fine. And go through the loop. And tie a knot. Under the previous stitch, make a loop. Go through the loop and pull it tight. Hooray! And that's one button done. Clip, clip. There we go. How to sew a button. looks much nicer. The other ones are also hanging a little loosely, which is one of the reasons I wanted to redo my buttons. So this one I definitely wanted to redo because this one has more loose strings. And then I think I'm also going to redo this one today just because it's hanging so loosely. So I'm going to leave that there for a moment and clip it out. Eventually, Anna and F sort of realize that he writes a big letter and says, "I love you," the full name of her older sister, whose name also starts with A. And she's like, "Oh God, I'm a monster. I've been lying to this boy. He thought I was my sister. I am not. Oh no," and refuses to talk to her. And then eventually the secret gets out that, like, one, he knows that he probably wasn't talking to the sister. Like, she doesn't know how to sew. She doesn't know how to bake cookies. She's way too cool for all that shit. He knows it's somebody else. But he's intrigued enough by the mystery that he wants to keep talking to her. And so he eventually tells her younger sister, "I've been exchanging notes with the woman in the walls. What the fuck is going on?" And they end up storming her place, barging in, and talking to her. And for the first time, she has human contact. One of the other interesting things in this book is that during the course of the book, she goes through puberty. And for a while, she's like, "I'm a disgusting monster. I've got all these pustules on my face. My body is no longer small. I've got all these weird lumps. Oh God, why?" And she sneaks out of her walls and catches the view of herself in the reflective surface of the toaster, and she thinks, "Well, I do look exactly like a monster, but if I'm gonna be a monster, I'll at least be a clean monster." And so she cleans herself up and starts bathing regularly and gets out of her, like, "I'm having puberty and I don't understand it," funk, and becomes a clean monster. It's a very interesting, funny sort of part of the book. Where did I put the button? There it is. It escaped me for a moment. Luckily, there's like these little lumps on the coat that sort of help me tell where the button was, even when I've taken it out. So once again, rearrange. Stick that in place and start to sew it. Hooray. So one of the, this book did affect me. I think the reason it did is just because I didn't understand and I was seeking understanding and I needed a way to explain my feelings, and this was the best way that I could find to do that. But when I was going through depression, one of my big fears was that I was invisible, that no one was noticing me, that people would forget my existence, that I would disappear, that I, was like Anna, that if I disappeared, people wouldn't even realize that I was gone. Which I think is a fair fear to have, but I think I probably took it a little bit too far. Of like assuming that, I'm like a fictional character who has highly exaggerated things in the service of metaphors of what it's like to be anxious and scared of growing up and stuff. I think I was clinging to like something to explain the way that I felt so invisible and like everybody was constantly forgetting about me in a way that wasn't entirely healthy, but whatever. You cope how you cope. So eventually her younger sister and her friend F, the boy, come and barge into her home and make her come out. And they decide, we're going to have you have a big debut at a Halloween party. And because she knows how to sew very well, there's, in the attic of the house, the woman who lived there before the family was a seamstress. And so there's all sorts of fabrics and sewing supplies, and nobody else really goes in the attic. She's like got the door locked, so it's just her room. Yeah, I think maybe one more. little loop on each of these buttonholes, and then I'll be done. And go through the hole. There you are. And so she's like, I want to dress up as a moth. And her sister says, okay, you can dress up as a moth as long as I pick which one. And so she searches through this entire giant book of moths that Anna has and finds the Luna moth. And Anna is like, oh God, I said I would. And so she ends up dressing up as a Luna moth for this party and like paints the dress to be the exact same colors and has a little headband with antenna on it and is just the most gorgeous member of the party. Everybody's like, whoa, she's so cool. She gets asked to dance with by her older sister's actual boyfriend, not the one who wants to be her boyfriend. And then her older sister's like pissed at her, and then it ends up in like they're all chasing her around the house and like, who are you? What are you doing here? You pissed off everybody by no fucking fault of her own. It's not her fault that the boyfriend is a bit of a sleazebag and trying to dance with this fucking, I think she's like no more than 15. But basically like too young for him, and everybody's like, what the fuck is going on? And also like, you have a girlfriend, don't dance with random kid. And she ends up outside in the night, and it is revealed it's Anna. She's been alive the whole time. Nobody realized it, and her mom hugs her and cries, and eventually Anna is like, okay, I'm willing to leave the house. It is not so bad outside at nighttime. The light of day was terrifying, but nighttime feels closer, feels more comfortable. And so she eventually gets to a point where she can maybe leave the house and, you know, have a more adjusted life than living all cooped up all of the rest of her life. I forgot to shank it. See, it's a very simple step to forget. Okay. You can still do it, though. Whoops, 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 whoops. Here's how you sew a button properly. I'm not going to do it properly, though. Wah. Well, I remember before I was cutting my thread, at least. Go around, go around, go around. Go back in. That helps it also stay a little tighter so that the threads don't pull out as much as they sometimes would. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to have to retie it. Oh, God. It's getting a lot of knots here. That's okay. Yeah, one thing is, like, this coat was obviously constructed so that a lot of the work is on the inside of it and invisible. So I don't really want to, like, undo all of the seams and make it visible, so a lot of this is going to be more obvious, but I don't mind. As I've mentioned, I think last time I did a sewing stream, I kind of like visually obvious repairs. I think they look cool. I think it's a kind of punk rock thing to be like, yeah, I repair my clothes. Look, you can see that, like, even though it's an old coat, I still love it enough to repair it and to use it. I think it's kind of a beautiful thing, visual repairs. Somewhat of a dying art. Okay, snip that. Woo! And then I just have one more. I'm gonna take off my jacket. So one of the things is, this is also one of the first books that, like, I had owned for so long that I decided to highlight it. So I'm probably gonna flip through it and see some of the highlights, because I know there's, like, funny lines in here that I liked. I always like to think that he was still alive in there, living off library paste and sandwich crusts from the staff's brown bag lunches. That's about her father's, who disappeared in the Library of Congress. I know that most childhood experts do not recommend the unsupervised use of power tools by very young children, but I was remarkably mature for my age, and though small, very strong. She's like, I can use power tools. Oh, look at all that. The very thought of a stranger's eyes upon me make me faint with fear. Yet whenever someone looks right past me without seeing me, I feel myself infinitely superior to him. I laugh in my secret heart at his stupidity and hug my own quick-wittedness to myself. Just think how simple and pleasant it would be to go through life as an object, an attractive little blue sugar bowl, for instance. How peaceful, how tranquil that must be. And if a careless elbow knocked you over and you smashed to bits, you wouldn't care. Why should you? Being brainless has its advantages. To distract my family's attention, I began work on a great number of repairs and improvements around the house, all at once, at all hours of the time and day. And then I wrote here, she's 7 while this is happening. She's like, I'm just gonna repair the whole house. Thanks. Inside the wall I smiled. It was a small, secret smile, the smile of a snail curled up safe and snug inside of its shell. Once I had added a footstool, a big, cozy quilt, and a small but sturdy table, my little room was as neatly filled as an egg. I just love that. As neatly filled as an egg. That's so cute. So this is her talking about the house. I loved it because it was strong, but I also loved it because it was blind and mute and deaf. It had no eyes to see me, or ears to hear me, or tongue to scold me. It did not judge me. It only held me close in its arms and rocked me gently to sleep through the long, silent nights. This is probably one of the things that makes me obsessed with the idea of a house and a house that is alive. Because that paragraph in particular does talk about that. It's beautiful. Oh yeah. Here's where she's talking about the terrifying child psychologist. It is easy to forget how large the world is and how empty. I stood alone under the naked sky with nothing but air and space between me and the huge, barbarously bright sun. That's where she's like, nope. And then she writes her mom a note. 5 years went by. I did leave my secret room, but only when everyone else was out or by night. Otherwise, I lived entirely inside the wall. The night after the terrifying child psychologist came, she wrote a note and said, I'm sorry, but I can't go to school. I really am very sorry. Please don't be angry with me. Oh, she's so fucking scared. Poor Tart. The very first time I didn't hide myself from an outsider, I was manhandled, kidnapped, and then abandoned. Think what would happen if I ventured out into the wide world. She has a bunch of little peepholes in her room, so she really gets a full view of everyone, but she says, I learned to read emotion in the lift of a wrist, the angle of a spine, the nervous twitch of an ankle. Andrea, my older sister, it was as if she had somehow taken all my bloom and assurance for herself, leaving me pale and trembling. Kirsty, her younger sister, laid little Anna traps, a box propped up on a stick and baited with a cookie, often one I'd baked myself. It seemed rude to just take the cookie and go away, and even ruder to pretend I hadn't seen it, so I liked to leave something in its place, like a crocheted skirt for her doll Bethany, or a little jar of hard candies tied with a pretty ribbon. So even though Andrea never saw Anna anymore, whenever she came into a room with her friends, she would peer anxiously into the dark corners and rummage among the couch cushions before she'd let them sit down, worrying that Anna was there. Even Andrea would mutter, Anna, damn it, under her breath and slap the wall with her hand whenever she missed something. Every once in a while, I let Kirsty see me. I'd creep up behind her as she brushed her brown hair in the full-length mirror in the bathroom, and then slip away when she turned around. If she was sad, I would reach out and touch her hand. Kirsty hardly frightened me at all. I loved her. In its way, it was a good life, but then I turned 12. The years between 12 and 14. It's so good. If I wasn't dying, that meant I was changing beyond any hope of recall. I don't think I like change very much. Even though I knew that deep inside I had changed forever, maybe it didn't have to be so obvious. If I was a monster, I would be a clean, self-respecting monster. So fun. Clearly it was time that I stopped indulging my talent for self-pity. Oh, and here's her first description of F. And one of the boys, a short, rather chubby young man, spent all of his time alone in the front parlor playing scales on the piano. Whenever anybody looked into the room, he would stop abruptly and blush deeply. So he's also a very, very shy person, which makes them rather matched to each other. And here's her little, I would learn to live in my new body without shame. I would find a way to repair the house and enlarge my passages without being detected. Soon, very soon, everything would settle down and go along quietly in the old ways. Sure about that? Nope. Things keep changing. So what good is it being a woman in the wall? There's a certain urgency to my question. I'm in love. Oh, I am in love. More specifically, I've fallen in love with a letter written on ivory notepaper in brownish ink, and with the mind and the hand that wrote that letter. The letter says, Dear A, I love you, sincerely yours, F. P.S. I'm too much of a coward to sign my name to this letter, or even to write yours. I know you'll never find this, but there's always a chance. And she thinks it's for her. It's really for her older sister. Oh, the tragedy. So they start up a whole fucking correspondence. The writer didn't know how close to the heart of my world he had come. He put it in the crack, like, right inside of her main room that she lives in. And should I, terrifying yet oddly exhilarating thought, answer his note? And she does answer. She puts it, I believe, in the same... Oh, yeah. She's thinking about it, and she starts embroidering, and without really meaning to, I had already written my response. Neatly embroidered in gold on the white linen were these words. Dear F, I think you are very brave. Please won't you tell me who you are? Sincerely, A. She puts it in the crack. I had fallen in love like a stone falling into a well. His letter had released something in me, and now there was no going back. Once again, I was changing forever. And when she's looking through the walls, seeing all the teenagers who are running through the house, sometimes I felt like an animal behaviorist crouching on an ice floe trying to work out the social relationships of a tribe of penguins. And she imagines that maybe her older sister scared F away. And then, finally, she finds... a letter! Dear A. Oh my god, A, I had no idea you would ever find that letter. I just like the idea of my letter being here on the walls of your house, crumbling away to bits maybe 60 years from now when you're an old woman and I'm an old man. Stupid, I know, but I swear I never thought you'd find it. Here I am, babbling on. No, I'm sorry, I won't tell you who I am. I'm glad you think I'm brave, but I'm not. And if you knew who I was, you'd agree that cowardice is my best policy when it comes to talking to a girl like you. I think cowardice is the best policy for Anna, but you know. How smart and funny and clever you to answer the way you did. In embroidery, I mean. It's the last thing I'd expect you to do. Because she wouldn't. You are absolutely amazing. Sincerely yours, S. F. P.S. If the person reading this letter isn't A, I hope you burn in hell for all eternity. Reading other people's mail is the act of a blob of pond scum. P.S. P.P.S. I don't care who reads this letter. Andrea Megan Newland. See, I even know your middle name. I love you. Oh, God. So the obvious thing to do was to forward his entreaties to my all-conquering sister and then write back to him telling him that his love letters had, in fact, been intercepted by a blob of pond scum. They keep writing letters. And he writes more letters to her. Please answer this letter. I know you've got the others because they are all gone when I looked later. And she decides. To my dismay, I found that it wasn't at all the letter I'd planned to write. Dear F, I'm sorry I haven't written. I have just a few questions. Do you like raisins? Do you have any food allergies? What is your neck size? How long is your arm? Please measure along your arm from the back of your neck to your wrist with your arm slightly bent. What is your favorite color? Are you dark or light? Thank you very much, A. I don't know how to tell you this. I put that letter in the crack. I am deeply ashamed of myself, but that is what I did. So these are all questions relating to she wants to make him gifts. I couldn't bear for him to think of me as a blonde of pond scum, even though that is what I truly am. 5-inch necks, approximately. It's hard to tell where to stop and start measuring. My ears are each 3 inches long. I only mention it because this seems to be the kind of information you want. My nose is 2 inches long. I had to ask my father for help with measuring my arm. He thinks I'm nuts, but then he thought anyway. I'm not sure which arm you are particularly interested in, so I'll throw in the measurements for both. They're the same. Please answer this letter right away, if not sooner. Yours, but holding a large butterfly net carefully concealed behind my back in case you try something funny. F. That is so fucking funny and cute. Holding a large butterfly net concealed behind my back in case you try something funny. What the hell? Lucky F to have a father actually in the house rather than lost forever in the storage stacks of the Library of Congress. I hate to bother you, but could you please measure your neck again? This time measure around your neck instead of up and down. Thank you, I really appreciate it. Sincerely, A. P.S. Much against my better judgment, I measured my neck. 15 inches. I have evolved 2 strategies for dealing with people. First, I hide from them. Then, if that doesn't work, I try to pacify them with presents. So here she writes a bunch of things that she would think other people would know. And then she also says, look in the shelf in the hall closet under the main stair. And he says, I'll get your point. I admit I didn't first, though. What is this peculiar letter? Can this really be the A that I know and love so well, writing this gibberish? Or is some wacko purloining my mail? But then I figured it out. You're right. That is the kind of stuff everybody always talks about. And it's boring. And I don't want to talk about it either. Tell me something. Why do people keep oatmeal cookies in a coat closet? By any chance, did you mean those cookies to be for me to eat? I sure hope so, because I did. P.S. There was a brand new shirt all wrapped up in red satin ribbons underneath the cookies. Did somebody in your family misplace a birthday present? P.P.S. You never said what you thought of Mr. Albright. I mean, isn't he dating your mother? I heard they're getting kind of serious. So this is the other conflict, is that her mother is dating someone new because their father is, you know, missing, declared dead. God. Strictly speaking, the law maintained that my mother was a widow. For her to go out on a date with another man was probably not actually illegal. Broad-minded people might not even consider it immoral, but she's, like, shocked and scared of it. And then she's listening through the wall and hears they were quarreling, all was not lost. If her mom gets married, then she's scared. And Mr. Albright was sitting in her father's chair again. A murderous rage sang in my blood and roared in my ears. I knew at last what it was to hate without fear or restraint. So this is what had been brewing behind my back. How deceitful my family was. How sly. They must all be aware of this conspiracy. And she imagines if they all move out and go away, like they're somewhat planning to, she imagines a new family moving in. They would tear down my walls and lay bare my secret self. It's a scary thought. Oh, yeah. And then they hear, and then they come into her room. I woke up with my heart thumping in my ears. The blinding light was still there, and so was someone else. Someone was behind the light. Someone was here inside my secret room. I could hear the rasp of labored breathing, the floor and walls creaking with an unaccustomed bulk. I could smell an alien presence, some sort of deodorant or shampoo, I suppose. "Hello," said a voice, shockingly close at hand. I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand straight up and my body temperature plummet by 5 degrees. "Hello," said the voice behind the light. "Is that you, eh?" What a fool. I should have said that there was a whole colony of us living inside the wall, and all of us to a woman armed to the teeth. I'm almost 2 whole years older than Kirsty, and remarkably mature for my age. Even a worm will turn, I discovered, if you come badgering and blustering into the very heart of its home. So she says, "Well," I said hesitantly, feeling the blood rush from my cheeks. "I'm shy," I confessed. And he busts out laughing. "You're shy? I'll say you're shy. You're an Olympic-class wallflower, that's for sure." And he busts into roars of laughter again. So he discovers that it's not Andrea. "Anna, are you dead?" says her sister for the first time in years. "I'm so sorry," I said. "I haven't offered you anything to eat or drink." Kirsty laughed and said, "Oh, Anna, it's so good to see you again." Oh. So these two stumble into her room and decide to go. F had gone to the public library and checked out a big stack of books on shyness, and now spoke a language largely incomprehensible to us, using terms like agoraphobia and fear hierarchies, and debating the value of flooding therapy over systematic desensitization. So they're trying to figure out how to get her out of the wall. "I think," F murmured thoughtfully. I waited. Surely darling, kind, wonderful F would now say something that would make things at least a little bit bearable. "I think I'll come as a ghost," he said. "That's easy. And then Andrea won't know who I am. If I disguised my voice, we could probably have a really long conversation without her even guessing it's me." I sighed. Perhaps my body didn't want the same things I did. It apparently had plans and schemes I knew nothing about. Perhaps one day it would betray me in some unexpected way. Here's her learning about, periods. And she's like, "What? I'm supposed to have sex? What?" I have my self-respect as a craftswoman to think about. But that color green isn't right and the texture is wrong. And so she figures out how to make the perfect costume. So they go to the costume. To be honest, I really hadn't paid any attention since I'd planned on fainting if anyone actually spoke to me. In the event, unconsciousness seemed no more than a golden, unattainable dream. What did he do? Did Francis upset you? He did, didn't he? I'll kill him. And off Kirsty went to kill F. Mother, I thought, and my hand made a little involuntary gesture towards her. But I couldn't. No, I just couldn't. I wrenched my arm away from Kirsty and ran away up the stairs. They ran after me. Like a pack of hounds in full cry after a rabbit, they came. So they all find her. It was strange being embraced by my mother. I looked back over my shoulder at the autumn night I had visited so briefly. It was rather beautiful, I thought, unlike the terrifying daylit world. It did not give a sense of infinite space. It seemed like a secret, private place with deep shadows between the pools of lamplight. They would never see, never know the full extent of my achievement. They were too big to travel through my passages. Even I was too big. It wasn't little, I said sadly. It was the whole world to me. I hugged myself, comforting my fear. Very well then, I thought. I will be my own house. I will build myself a house out of my own flesh and bones where my frightened child self can find shelter. After all, isn't that one of the things women do? We are houses for our children until they are strong enough to breathe and walk alone. Some day I may carry a baby inside me, shielding it from harm within the stronghold of my body. So surely I must be able to give myself shelter now. And that really is all there is to tell, so far anyway. And there's the end of it. Oh, it's lovely. I really love that book, obviously. Okay, let's start on the next button. I had to stop for a bunch of quote reading. But we can do our button now. It's this one that is feeling loose. So first I'm going to cut it out. Next on our stack is The Girls. This is an interesting one. It's basically about a group of popular girls in school, and I think it's a good one to read if you are going to school and are wondering about the popular kids and everything, because it gives, I think, a more realistic view of them than media sometimes gives. Because media will often be like, yeah, they're just evil bitches and they just hate everybody and want the world to burn. But that's not really accurate, and a lot of the sort of things they do aren't in order to hurt other people. They're just, dumb teenager things. And so it gives a perspective of a new girl joins the popular kids, joins the plastics from fucking Mean Girls, but they don't act just like the plastics. They're just a group of friends who happen to be more popular than everybody else. And it really isn't that complicated. It's about, relationships and how they work and how everybody is unique in their own ways. And it's not really, the main sort of ringleader doesn't kick people out of the friend group because she's mean and cruel. She just loses interest very easily and finds someone else that she wants to hang out with more, which from the outside can seem rather cruel, but it really isn't pointed at all. It's just kind of the way she works, the way she's doing things. It doesn't have intent behind it in the way that everybody else sorts of thinks it does. She's not doing it with the intent to be cruel. She's just doing it, and the consequences of it can be rather harsh, but it's not with intent, which is an interesting perspective. Because I think usually we imagine people who hurt us are fully aware of what they're doing, and often I think they're not. People will hurt you without meaning to at all. People just sometimes hurt each other, and it usually doesn't have that much of a moral dimension to it. It's just they did what they thought was right, and the consequence was you got hurt, but that really wasn't what they were meaning to do, which is interesting to think about. Oh my god. Come on, where's the hole? There it is. Okay. Couldn't find the fucker. Our next book is Notes from a Liar and Her Dog, which is a very interesting one. So the back reads, Aunt McPherson's basic rules of life. Dogs are better than people. The more you say, the longer they ground you for. Lying only works if you keep it short. Never be nice to people who make fun of you. It's okay to keep a chick in your house, so long as he's housebroken. Make sure school doesn't get in the way of important things like your friends. Don't waste the truth on people who don't understand. So it's about a girl who's a compulsive liar and her little ratty dog. And she just wants to be herself. I'm trying to remember if this is the one with... Your litter questions. One minute. Oh yeah. She's like convinced she's adopted because she's so unlike her parents. One of the questions is, who do you think is the hero of this story? It's a cool book about adolescence and feeling like you're someone and trying to figure out who that someone is and feeling like there's no point in not lying to people and just feeling justified in her lies a lot of the time. Okay, there we go. Yeah, she's a pretty quirky character. I don't know, that's one that I don't remember as well. I know there's this one book that I keep trying to remember the name of where there's this one and one other book. And in one of them, hi, welcome. One of the main girls' friends has a golf course, and they have set up a little hidey hole inside of the pyramid in the Egyptian section of the mini golf course, which is the fucking best thing I've ever heard. I want a hidey hole in the Egyptian pyramid of the mini golf course. And in the other one, they end up mummifying a fucking chicken for their Egyptology report little presentation, and it all goes horribly wrong, and it's very funny. I don't think that's this book, though. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I want to fucking hide in a fucking pyramid. Are you kidding me? That's so funny. Alright, one more time. I'm gonna shank the button. Whoop. Emerge from underneath. Wrap it around. Sneak back under the fabric. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Now that button is nice and tight, no longer loose. I mean, it was like, because of Egyptology, maybe they were the same book that had like the secret pyramid and the fucking mummified chicken. It was very fun though. There's also, do I have that one in my stack? No. There's one about like doing the school play and he has to play Rumpelstiltskin and then he has to fucking put on tights and he doesn't understand how the tights work and they're way too small for him because he didn't try them on beforehand. And so he's just crouching around trying to not reveal that he's got his whole ass out underneath these fucking tights doing this stupid play. It's very fun. I'm doing good today. How are you doing? Having a good day. Finally got around to fucking fixing up my coat. So the other thing that was wrong with it, God, my desk is noisy, is that this pocket has come undone. It ripped root of it. So I'm going to work on fixing that today. And also there's this spot where it came undone. So we're going to fix that. So I'm going to switch to a thin black thread instead of my embroidery thread. Get rid of all my trash in my little trash can. Oh, the Mario movie! That came out! How exciting. I might see it next week then. We'll have to see. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I hope it's good. It seems pretty cute. I'm excited for it. Go in there. There you go. You liked it? Good to hear. Yeah, I got some pants with holes. Focusing on the coat today, though. So which one do I want to do first? Let me see. The next book is fucking Dragon's Den, baby! You want high fantasy, you want childhood. Look how cute! The fucking cover is so fun, look at that. Aww. A stable of dragons to groom, train, and ride! This is a horse girl book, but with dragons. Like, that's what it is. It's got the typical plot of everything. It's a horse girl book, but with fucking dragons. I love it. Okay, I need to tie a knot in the end of this. So, it's just about a girl who lives at a stable full of dragons, and there's one particular dragon who nobody else can tame but her, and so she trains with her special dragon. And then they win the big race together. And there's one day where she is out on the farm, or out in the wilderness too late at night, and the dragon is with her, and the dragon defends her from some wolves. It's a horse girl book, but with dragons. It's a fucking delight, though, because, like, it very much, like, it's the fantasy of being a dragon rider. Like, come on, who doesn't love it? Of, like, there's a world where there's all these fucking dragons in the stables, and I can work with them. That is the best. It very much fulfills that fantasy, and it's a great book because of that. Okay, there's my little knot. Clip. So that one is great, and also the cover design, I mean, come on, that's so fun. It's so cute. It's just a great little book. Oh yeah, and there's these little, like, illustrations in the back about what the different dragons look like. So fun. It's her little log of the dragon that she has. Here's another little illustration of the baby dragons playing together. Oh my god. There's, like, the mean bitch girl who is like, you can't ride dragons, you're not good enough. Oh, there was one. She's trying to comb her hair. The expression on that is really great. The way that she's all squinty-eyed and just like, oof, ouch! Whoops. And here they are trying to train her dragon, Sky Dancer. And no one else can do it but her. She's the only one. Oh, it's so fun. Yeah, it's a great book. So if you like fucking dragons, and if you have childhood dreams of riding a dragon and winning the race, definitely read that book. That's what it is. It's the fantasy of having a dragon and riding it into the sunset. Oh, there might be. I don't know. I just know the book. If there's a Disney Channel movie about it, then it may be based on the book. I don't even know. I have not watched a lot of Disney Channel. I didn't have it growing up, so I got, like, PBS. That's the channel I got. Okay, so this is, I believe there's 2 folds. Let me look at the other side of the coat. Okay. So on the side that it didn't rip out of, that is what it's supposed to look like, is a little pleat where there's 2 folds on the inside. Yeah, Nick is fun too, but I was just on, like, PBS, so Between the Lions, Fetch with Ruff Ruffman, all that good shit. Oh, so there's 1 fold here already. So we gotta put the other fold next to it, right? Yeah. Trying to get it all lined up. Is that good? Maybe? Yeah, I think that's about it. Okay, let me find all my shit without disturbing that. The other book I have is the infamous Coraline. This and the Graveyard Book were the books that I know Neil Gaiman the best for. I read both of those as a kid. I had the book on tape of the Graveyard Book, and I would always listen to it before going to bed. It was so... I, like, have, like, specifically, it's narrated by Neil Gaiman, and, like, the way that he says specific things is just, like, stuck in my head, like, vinegary tomatoes, and I was like, oh, vinegary tomatoes indeed. Okay, let me find... This one's a little hard, because there's, like, the fabric underneath it is pretty loose. But still I'm gonna do it. Oh yeah, Neil Gaiman is the author of Coraline. Look, you can see it right there. New York Times bestselling author, Coraline. You can recognize his style in it if you read the book. Of, like, the sort of half-explaining world building that he does. Which, like, isn't a bad thing. Like, I think he's someone who, like, has the philosophy of, like, the world is meant to serve this story and not, like, the world is the story. Some authors, like, put a lot of emphasis on their world building, and he doesn't do it in quite the same way. Like, you know as much information as you need to know for the story to make sense, but you don't know much more than that. Oh god, I'm all tangled up. Yeah, so I read Coraline and loved it from a very young age. I've always loved, like, horror and spooky stories. I think kids need, like, some amount of horror in their lives. I think it helps them develop. I think it helps them feel brave, because when you read horror stories, you practice, like, one of the things that I got a lot of practice as a kid is being like, okay, that was really scary, but it's not real and I'm okay. And I can recover and be like, it's not real, I don't have to be scared anymore. And being able to, like, turn off that fear response and be like, okay, that was scary and I was freaked out, but guess what? It's over now and I'm all good. Fuck that one up. Yeah, he wrote Coraline and he wrote... Oh god. Are you fucking disconnecting again? Why are you doing that? Hello? Said it disconnected. I don't know if we got a little bump in the stream. I think the recording is probably fine. Oh yeah, it did start over. Fucking fix your internet shit. Sorry. They said it would be fixed. Humph. My internet company was like, there might be things in your fucking thing yesterday, except now they're still happening, I guess. Just a connection blip, though. It should be okay, hopefully. God damn it. Sorry about that. Oh, this part is tricky, tricky, tricky. Yeah, so Coraline is a really good book. It's a very kind of scary book. It's a spooky, spooky, scary book. But I really like it. And it's about being brave. One of my favorites is when the cat is talking to Coraline. She's just realized that the other mother has taken her parents and is holding them hostage because she wants Coraline to come back. And she's obviously terrified of the other mother. In the book, it's a little different from the movie. She, like, leaves and is like, I'm not going back because I know something is wrong. It's very obvious from the beginning that something is wrong. The movie is more focused on the spectacle and stuff, which I fucking love the movie. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything bad about the movie. I love stop motion animation. I love Leica Studios. Oh my god. Look at how fucking fucked up the back is now. Ugh. Never mind. I'm just gonna not do this part because I don't know how to repair it. Because it's dumb. Wah. I'll just fix the pocket. I'm gonna pull my throat out. Anyway, Coraline is really good. One of my favorite parts that is very scary is the other father's fate. He ends up locked in a basement and sort of destroyed by the other mother. Like, he basically doesn't exist anymore because she just decides, nope, I'm done with you. And it says he has it's like he's dough. He's all falling apart and overrisen. And it's just a terrifying way to think of it, but still really cool. And that's another thing that I think the Graveyard Book kind of excels at, is it's horrifying, but it also makes you feel brave because it's a kid doing all these horrifying things and figuring out how to be brave and how to do all this stuff, and it's really cool. So I definitely recommend Coraline. Yep, it's a gaming book. It's cool. I just dropped it right in the middle. Okay, there you are. Retying a knot. Hello, welcome. Boop, boop, boop. Gotcha, bitch. Okay. I gotta rethread my needle. Just knocked something on the floor. Great. Go through the hole. There you go. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, this one is a difficult one because there's this bottom layer that is very unattached, and I'm trying to reattach it, and it makes it a little difficult because it's slippy slidey. I'm still going to try my best. The next book I have is Maniac McGee. He writes a lot of really cool little books. He's got a very particular way. This is one by Jerry Spinelli, who made quite a few books that are quite good. But this is the one that I had on my bookshelf, so it's the one that I've read like 57 times. And I like it quite a lot. There's, I think it's on the first page, but there's an opening poem. Yeah. Before the story, there's all the things they say about Maniac McGee. Grade school girls in 2 mils jump rope and chant, Maniac, maniac, he's so cool. Maniac, maniac, don't go to school. Runs all night, runs all right. Maniac, maniac, kissed a bull. And there's all these stories about who Maniac McGee is. And this tells who he actually is, maybe not just on the stories. It's his whole thing. So it's basically about a kid. I don't remember if he, like, had parents at one point, but he ends up not having any parents, and he's just kind of adopted by various people throughout the book. It's also an interesting book. This is probably, like, my first exposure to racism, because Maniac ends up crossing the tracks. In his town, there's train tracks, and on one side is all of the white people, and on the other side is all of the black people. And he is sort of friends with both sides because he's a white boy, but he hangs out on the bad side of the tracks a lot. The black side of the tracks a lot. And he has friends there. He is sort of raised, or at least looked after a bit, by one of the black women who lives on the side of the tracks. And people from both sides are kind of mad at him when he's crossing over, because they're like, you belong with the blacks because you're sympathizing with them, or like, you shouldn't be here, you're a white kid, get out. And it's interesting, like, he does not really understand the difference when he's first hearing these things. And even when he, like, hears the word black, he's like, they're not black, they're like brown, they're all these different colors of like light brown and dark brown. I've never seen someone with black skin before. But obviously, like, you know, it's never been a super accurate term. And it's an interesting book in that way, and just like the adventures of this weird kid running around. Like, that's what he does for fun, I guess, is he just runs all the fucking time, all night long. Long distance endurance runner. At one point, he ends up semi-homeless, and I mean homeless. He ends up homeless, and he goes to the zoo, and he starts living in the pen with the buffalo. And that's the part where they say he kissed a bull. Is he ended up kissing one of the buffalo, but like, you know, he was just living in their pen, like eating their carrots and shit. Like, yep, this is where I live now. And then the person who cleans up the zoo after hours, the janitor, ends up taking him in for a minute. It's just a fun story about all the adventures this kid goes through, about the legend that he becomes. He ends up untying the world's worst knot, and there's a contest for it where he will win free pizza for life, except he doesn't like pizza because he's a very weird kid, and so he ends up giving it to his friends who are kind of poor and can't really eat, and they get free pizza every day for the rest of their lives as long as they go in with him. It's great. Yeah, it's a very fun little story of just the adventures of this kid who becomes like a local legend, who becomes a like jump rope rhyme. Very fun. Okay. One of the books I have is very interesting because this is a book that I've seen featured on aesthetic blogs, How to Disappear Completely and Never Be Found. That is rather an interesting title, and it's an interesting front page. This book is fucking whack. What the hell? Everybody's like, this book is so aesthetic. I want to disappear completely and never be found. No, bitch. You haven't read this book. You don't know about the Rat Man. You don't know about the Lake Man. You don't know about the weird fucking shit going on in this book, okay? Nobody can, like, put this on their aesthetic blog. Unironically. You're not allowed anymore. It is such a weird book, and I fucking love it. So, there's, two kids move into a new house, and there's weird rumors, and there's weird comic books that show up. And it turns out there's this local legend of two brothers, and one of them is the Rat Man, and one of them is the fucking Water Man, and there's fucking illustrations in this. Let's take a look, and let me find all the comic pages. I know there's illustrations in this. There it is. Rat, Volume 89, What Happened When They Got Caught. So they break into the weird house, and there's a weird story, and then the rats come out, and they're like, oh god, we grabbed all the cool stuff. It's attack! Hurry, hurry! Ah, they're dragging me down! They want their stuff! Let go of the stuff! So he nearly drowns these fucking children. What the hell? And then there's another one. Did you feel that? What? It was like someone was rocking the boat. Yeah, it's called Waves. We're on a boat. Pretty funny. Wait, there it is again. I still didn't feel anything. There's a fucking dude in the water. What the hell? All these weird books. And they're trying to figure out the mystery of, like, where are these books coming from? What is the real story? Oh, look, I have a bookmark in this one. Fun. What the hell is going on? Here he is. I see him. There he is. Behind the window glare. Hurry, he's getting away. Daddy, what was that? There's a weird rat man in the town. These are like handmade comic books by the Rat Man twist. And they're trying to, like, they went to the library to try and find more of these books, and there's like only one copy because they were made. A very close call in the woods. Shh, it sounded like I heard a footstep. Run! I think it's getting closer. Help! I'm starting to slip. Don't turn around. You must not see my face. Where are you? Where are you taking us? It's the road. We're on the road. Dad, Dad. Too late for your daddy, I'm afraid. We're by the water. He's gonna give us to the drowning ghost. Please don't do this. Dad, Dad. Ah, no. He's fucking drowning children. What the hell? This book is just whack. And then here's the story of how this kid turned into a rat. His parents ignored it for as long as could, but finally they had to admit something was wrong. He had to wear 3 pairs of socks or his new sharp toenails would scratch the hardwood floors. There wasn't a dentist on the island who would even look at his teeth. They were afraid of getting rabies. And while some might say human beings can't really turn into rats, or it's called puberty stupid, or better yet, you believe you're a rat, you will become a rat. The truth was, it was true. The boy was turning into a rat. And while the rat boy was going through this huge transportation, well, the other boy was going through a change of his own. He was an amazing swimmer. And he's wearing a medal, the same medal around my little sister's neck. Could that be Dad? The dad who is gone in a way? Where's the dad? We don't know. Ring, 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 ring. Do you know where your children are? Is that you? Is that you? Hello? Hello, I'm looking for my sister. I'll take you to her. I'm Rat. Oh, we have a white rat named Glenda in a cage at my school. We feed her sunflower seeds. Will you take me to my sister now? Yes, but first would you like to see my boat? So you have to figure out the mystery of, like, these 2 brothers, one whom is a rat man and one's whom is the drowned ghost. It's fucking whack. This is not just an aesthetic book. It is a wild, weird sort of fantasy story. I just saw it on an aesthetic blog once and I never got over it because I was like, I've read that book! You can't just put that on your aesthetic blog. That's a weird, weird book. You can't be like, ooh, aesthetic. No, bitch! It's bizarre. I would recommend it if you like weird books. The other... I should find a picture of the cover. There's another book about... that has texts and comics interspersed that I really liked when I was a child. I want to reread it. I have to find it, though. I'm not sure. I gotta get a hold on it in the library or something. I haven't done that yet. Okay, my tail is hidden. Come here, tail. Tug, 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 tug. There it is. Nope. Maybe. There we go. Let me find a picture of the front cover of the other one. That's really cool. Boop, boop, boop. There it is. It's blurry as shit, though. Oh my god, all the pictures are so blurry. Okay, 1 second. Alright, that's a kind of shit picture, but... This is Malice. It is a book that is part comic and part real book. It's very interesting. It tells the story of kids who get sucked into this comic book world and have to survive it. Which is another cool, spooky premise that I really love. Because once they read the comic, there's a chance that the tall man will come for them and decide that they should be a part of the comic. And then there's all these different worlds and locations in the comic with all these different dangers that they have to survive. And it's interesting. There's 2 books. There's Malice and then there's Havoc, which is green instead of red. And they have to figure out how these comics are being made. Yeah, he is kind of Slender Man looking. And, like, how it all works. It is a very good sort of like urban legend story, because it's like there's rumors of this comic book called Malice, and it's like pretty brutal. Like, these kids are getting killed in horrible ways by horrible machines. But I really like it. I think it's a really intriguing story and a really cool world that they build. Okay, I need to make sure my tail is a little bit shorter again, because it's getting all caught up. Yeah, the back is probably looking real funky, but you know what? I'm trying my best. I mostly just want it to be functional, because when the pocket is ripped, I can't really use it as a pocket. Can I? So, I'm gonna go over it more. Yeah, I would recommend that one if you like a cool spooky story with some great art, with like sort of biomechanical monsters and all sorts of cool shit. Pull that back a little bit. Just gonna go over this one several times because I don't want it to rip out again. It's already done that once. The other long form book, and then I have some picture books that I have, is another one that, like, this one affected me deeply. Behind the Attic Wall. Each room held a secret, especially one. So it's about, what is her name? Maggie. It's about a girl named Maggie who... Maggie has been thrown out of more boarding schools than she cared to remember. Impossible to handle, they said. Nasty, mean, disobedient, rebellious, thieving. Anything they could say to explain why she must be removed from the school. When she arrived at her new home, it was a mistake to bring her here, said Maggie's great aunts, whose huge stone house looked like another boarding school or prison, but they took her in anyway, and after all, aside from Uncle Morris, they were Maggie's only living relatives. But from behind the closet door in the great and gloomy house, Maggie hears the faint whisperings, the beckoning voices, and in the forbidding house of her ancestors, Maggie finds magic, the kind that lets her, for the first time, love and be loved. So, behind the attic wall, there's a secret false wall in the attic of this ancient house containing her last living relatives. And her aunts want her to become, like, the perfect poster child. They, like, talk about all these, like, new age methods of therapy and, like, the perfect diet and everything so that they can make her better. And for a long time, it doesn't work. Like, what they're doing doesn't work. And technically, in the end, it never works, because the thing that she's missing is love and care. And she's not getting that from her aunts because they just want her as, like, an object. She's not getting that from anybody throughout her life. But she does manage to find it in this house because there's dolls behind the attic wall, and they are somewhat alive. And they kind of ask her to play along with them. They say, oh, let's have a tea party. And so she'll pour not real tea into their little teacups, and they'll say, oh, let's eat some bread, and they just have little wooden blocks as bread, and, you know, they're just dolls. None of the stuff that they have is really real. But Maggie ends up playing along with them and pretending that it is. And they care for her, and as she cares for them, she brightens and she becomes a lovely little girl. She's no longer as pale and sad, and these little pretend games work wonderfully. And she figures out, like, there's a little newspaper clipping about how these two are maybe, like, dead and possessed by ghosts, but I think that part doesn't honestly really matter. Like, the point is that they're loving her and such. There's one part. I don't know if I've highlighted this one at all. I do wonder if I've put any. No, I don't think I highlighted this one at all, but there's a great part where they say, like, the tea will warm your cheeks and the bread will fill you and all this stuff. Oh god, what is happening there? I think this is a leftover thread from the actual coat. Look at that. Where'd you come from? Don't know, I'm gonna cut it out though. Oop. It sounds a little creepy, but it's really, it's just a cute, pretty story about, like, wanting to be loved and finding that love, and eventually, like, the dolls stop talking to her and they stop reacting because she's found fulfillment elsewhere in her life. Like, she's kind of gotten what she needed from them, which was enough love and attention, and now she can go and seek that out from real people instead of just the dolls. And it's about how, like, you can use your imagination to heal yourself, I think. Like, that's the sort of underlying metaphor, is like, if you can't find love, then you can make up a love and find it that way. I think it's a rather beautiful story in that way. I like it a lot. I think the cover design does a good job with it, where it's sort of this candied, beautiful world, and she's very pale and faded. She's almost like a ghost because she's been living her life like a ghost for a while. Like, she's got less color than the dolls, even though she's the real person, because she just has been living her life in a way where she doesn't care about herself, care about anybody else. She just is sad and alone. And luckily for her, she manages to find, you know, even though they're not real people, people who can love her. And that's what helps her in the end, not her aunt's weird methods. It's love is what she needs. So I think it's a cute story. It is a little weird and creepy, but I like it. I don't know. I've always loved dolls, though. So I think that's another reason, is like, I want to play pretend with dolls. That would be so fun to just, like, sneak away to the attic and have little tea parties all day. Aww. Nope, come on. Here we go. Gotcha. Okay, I think I might be done with my coat for now, because I'm kind of sick of it. Nice sussy story. Yeah. I have other things behind me, though, in my little repair basket. Should we work on? How about this skirt? Because I want to wear it. So this one, I've already repaired it a little, but then the fucking zipper came out. It's not on there, so I'm going to try and put it back on there and then put a little cover so that it doesn't come out again. I wear this skirt a lot, and so it's gotten pretty aged, which is, I think, the reason why it's fucking falling apart. I just want a working zipper on my skirt. Is that so much to ask? Okay. The other books that I have are illustrated books. I could probably read these, honestly. Caretakers of Wonder is just a lovely story about the people who put the sun in the sky and who light the stars and keep them burning, the ones who paint feathers on birds and the wings on butterflies, the ones who will give the wind directions, fly the clouds, and tell the rain where to fall. And so it says, when you fall asleep, imagine what you would like to do to keep the world magical, for you know that one of these nights your friends are going to tap on your window and invite you to become one of the caretakers of wonder. And it's just a lovely little book about all the people who do the things that keep the world beautiful and keep it wonderful. And I think that's a great story, a great premise. Like, I want to be a caretaker of wonder. But, you know, it is something that's nice to imagine. Like, who's in charge of putting the sun in the sky and telling the clouds where to go? And it's such a fun, imaginative thing. And I would do, like, what the book tells you to do. I would just sit in bed and be like, what would I do if I was a caretaker of wonder? What would I be in charge of? I don't know. So it's a fun little thing to imagine. Ugh. I don't know if I can get this back on the tracks. Fuck. You still able to slide up this way? Yeah, okay. tricky little thing. I want to take it off of the other zipper. Gives me kind of not a lot of room to work with. Yeah, about ascending to godhood. Oh god. It's just like, it puts it in a very mundane sort of way of like, all the things you have to do. You have to get a giant trampoline to make sure the sun goes all the way up to the sky and bounce him up there and all this stuff. God, I don't know if I can get this. Please, I love this skirt. I don't want to be busted. This is another book. I have not read the original series of this. This is the Spiderwick Field-Wide Guide to the Fantastic World Around You, which is based on the Spiderwick novels. I don't actually like this cover. The other cover is way fucking cooler. Without the dust jacket. Come on. That's so fun. Field Guide to the Fantastic World Around You. Look at it. And it's like supposed to look all aged and like it's a weird journal. And then you can write your name in there. And it just has the best illustrations. I don't care about the Spiderwick series much. I care about this book because just the illustrations and the designs and the like scientific notes on all of the fairies and stuff are so fun. Like, here's a brownie. Look at him. He's got little socks for his pants and a little feather duster. Oh, it's so fun. A little changeling who's just a kid. And, like, telling the story of how all these things work. The cockatrice, who's, ooh, on the folded out page. Ooh, look how big. It's very, like, realistic, scientific sort of illustrations of these creatures, which is really cool. I love, in particular, I don't know if I can find it. Oh, the leprechauns. So fun. Oh yeah, this is the manticore, which is a cat with a man face. Ooh, he's cool and freaky. And he's also got thumbs. Ooh! All the different sprites. Kelpies. Kelpies in particular. I love the way their feet are drawn. They're like, they have toes. Look at them toes. He's just like a weird wet horse. He's so fun. You can see the little weird kind of hoof prints. And those will drown you, so don't get too close. And then there's the merfolk, who I'm like, oh hell yeah. And it's got all these like great notes, like their hair is actually external gill filaments, and used to extract oxygen from the water. Like, that's so fun. And a little Caribbean mermaid. Like a sea anemone, her tentacled hair delivered a numbing sting to anyone foolish enough to touch it. That's great. And she's like a shrimp. Ugh, so fun. All this cool stuff. Oh my god. This is the biggest illustration in the book. It is a full fucking, like, 4 pages long. This giant sea serpent. But the best part of the illustration is right here in the middle. There's a dude in there! There's a dude in his tummy! Oh my god! So cool. Alright, let me make sure it's all nicely. Trying to take care of this one. There's trolls. There's an ogre who... Flattery got this ogre... Balcarus to pose for me. He insisted on a formal portrait as opposed to my animal paintings. So, like, he's obviously very developed, and he's like, you can make a portrait of me? Thank you. I'm not an animal. And then there's the ones in the sky that fly, like the griffins. Look at his face. Look at his little face. I love the face. Oh, it's so fun. Oh, have a good sleep. Bye-bye. The phoenix. And then, oh my god, I gotta find the fucking pukas. Those are my favorite. Oh, banshees. Gargoyles. Ah! Look how fun he is. Little trickster. This mischievous and roguish trickster can appear in the form of a horse, rabbit, goat, dog, or sometimes even a human. But no matter what form the puka takes, its fur is almost always dark. So they just like to fuck with people. And also, like, eat your fucking blackberries. They're like, these are my blackberries. If you touch my blackberries, Aswana John, I'm gonna kill you. They're great. Oh yeah, and here's like the addendum by the kids in the books. It's so fun. I just love it. And then it's like he disappeared, and that's when he found like his first fae, and then he was obsessed with them ever since and trying to find them. So cool. So yeah, I think that is like my biggest inspiration for like fantasy designs. I love when they're somewhat realistic, like the merging of like science and fantasy and trying to make it like realistic to a point, but like then allowing your fantasy to fill in the gaps of like it looks mostly like a real horse, but then there's like these things that it can do that aren't like, oh my god. Fuck me. God damn it. Hey! Motherfucker. I'm in hell. Wah! Can I get them in there? Yeah, these are all from Chill Hop. They've got a lot of good tunes. Oh, God. Wiggle them on through, maybe. So I love the illustrations in there. They've definitely inspired any stories that I've written with similar creatures. Oh, thanks. If I have to put an entirely new zipper on here, I will, but I'll be upset about it. The skirt is technically, like, I don't zip it up all the way when I wear it, because that's too tight that way. Because I've grown since I first got it. Which is good. Yay for me for eating fucking food. What a difference, huh? Oh, God. Oh, God. Ugh, I don't think I can get it. Whatever. I have other shit that I wanted to work on that isn't that. Which I'm being sad about. Oh, that should be a simple one. Here are some fun leggings. My dad got these for me because I like cats and rainbows. And he was like, you can have rainbow unicorn cats. And I was like, okay, those are a little, like, childish. I'm a grown adult, but thanks. But I still wear them anyways, because why not? I know one of the legs has a hole along the seam. I have to figure out which one it is, though. Is it you? No, must be the other one. There it is, yep. Hole in the leg. So I'm gonna flip this bad boy inside out. And then we'll just sew that up. It's a small hole, so this was an easy fix. I've just been fucking lazy about getting around to it. Because, you know. Yep, just an easy repair. So then we have, what are my other ones? What do I have here? Oh wait, I do have two more, like, chapter books. Never mind. I just didn't make it in the pile because my pile was already big enough. This one is just Ella. This is a fantastic little retelling of the Cinderella story. Get rid of my black because I want to use white on this one. Not the kitty eating your clothes! Oh no! Kitties do that. I don't let the kitties in my room because otherwise they would shoot through all my cords, and I need those. They are cord assassins. So this is a version of the Cinderella story that I quite like because it's about Ella making all of her, like, she makes everything herself. She makes a bet with the blacksmith in order to get some glass slippers. She says, I bet you can't make, or with the, I guess the glass blower, not the blacksmith. Maybe it's the blacksmith and he also does glass shit. I don't know. She basically makes a bet with him and says, I bet you can't make glass slippers that are delicate enough to wear but strong enough that you can walk on them. And he says, okay, I'll put you up to that bet. And she says, okay, I have to walk 10 steps in these slippers without them breaking, and then I get them for free or something. And it's like a way for him to show off his skills. And so he does it, and so she gets some glass slippers because of this little bet she made with the person who works with glass, which is really cool. And she, like, sews a dress in secret and makes it all up herself, and there's no fairy godmother in this. And then when she ends up going to the palace and meeting the prince, it's like kind of a disappointment, and she's like, I don't love this life that I'm living right now. I kind of want to go back to what I was doing. Like, she's very bored, and so she then ends up doing like relief efforts for the war-torn parts of the country, and she's working with like refugees and stuff. And that is fulfilling for her. She, like, doesn't like being idle. Yeah, I forget, like, what the whole premise was of that, but it was like, I'll show them off and, like, prove that you're, like, a really good glassmaker, and everybody's, like, so impressed by him, so something like that. Where she's like, I bet you can't do this, and if you prove it, then I can have them, or whatever. But it's a super fun book about, like, you know, the Cinderella story, but with more, like, rescuing yourself instead of letting someone else rescue you, which is a criticism that's made, but, like, I don't know how much I fucking lead into that. Oh my god, wait, the other one. Yeah, paying artists an exposure goes back to the fucking medieval ages. I actually gotta pull this up. This is one that I have on my Kindle, so I don't have a version of it. I can... Pop, 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 1 minute. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here's the book. This is a great series that I really loved as a kid. Cinder! This is... Oh, it's really large. Let me put that behind my head. Thank you. Cinder is a great science fiction version of Cinderella, as you can see by the foot. I fucking love the protagonist. It's so fun. It's about a mechanist who is sort of mistreated by her family. As a cyborg, she is expensive. And, like, they have to pay for her, like, medicine and stuff in order to keep her alive. And it's, like, a future where there's sort of AIs, like, pretty basic AIs, and one of her best friends is an AI who doesn't hate her for being, like, part robot, and everybody else kind of discriminates against her because of it, which is an interesting premise. Somewhat accurate to real life. We do discriminate against people with disabilities in real life, too, so, you know, I can see it happening. And there's also the interesting part of the, one of the most interesting things that sort of pays off in the long run of this series. There's 4 books in the main series, and then I think there's, like, a couple of spin-offs of, like, other character perspectives and, like, prequels and stuff. But there's 4 main books, which is, I think it's, like, Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, and Winter, which is Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, and Snow White. They're all super fun. But one of the things that pays off in the long run of the story is that there are people who live on the moon now, the Lunarians. I don't know if that's their name. That's the name from fucking Hoseki no Kuni, which is another book I love. We'll talk about manga another day, though. Land of the Lustrous, man. Quite the interesting series. But this one is about specifically Cinderella and Cinder, who is a mechanic doing her best to just survive, and then one day the prince comes to her place and she's like, oh my fucking god, what the fuck, you're the prince, why are you here? And he wants her to repair his droid that was like his childhood nanny, and she's like people just told me to get a new one, but I like it because it's my childhood nanny and I like its personality and I don't want to lose it. And she has her own little droid that has been with her since childhood and she really loves it. And so she's like, yeah, sure, I can do that for you. I can repair things really easily. I'm a mechanic. That's what I do. And she, like, through their interactions sort of, like, falls in love with the prince and is also discovering there's something, like, weird about her. And that's the fact that secretly she is one of the lunar people. She is the lost princess of the lunar colonies. And she was... The reason that she has all these cybernetic limbs is because they attempted to kill her. She's like the real heir to the throne, and the lunar people, the one who's in charge now, attempted to kill her in a fire in order to take over the throne. And then she got basically like exiled to Earth and given cyborg parts to keep her alive, and so she has, like, some of the lunar abilities. But the interesting thing that she can also do is she has a cybernetic eye. And one of the things that the lunar people can do is cast a glamour so that they look beautiful to everyone around them. And they use it to look, like, supernaturally beautiful, and they never appear on screens. They don't like robot eyes because they're like, no, they can see my real self. I don't want it. And she can actually tell, like, one of her eyes is human and one of them is not. That's all fixed. Yay for me. Another repair. Finished. Weird leggings. Hooray. So she can actually see through the glamour of, like, the number one head bitch in charge of the lunar colonies. And is like, they were right. You're actually really ugly. And the head bitch is like, I'm gonna fucking kill you now! She's pissed. I might need fabric for that one, actually. Wow. This is another skirt with a weird zipper, although it's not completely fallen off, which is nice. Come on. Get. Good. Okay. So this bottom part is all fucked up. I think I need to put a patch on it, frankly. That's what I need. Yeah, the zipper on the back is pretty unaffected. So there's 2 layers to it. There's the inner layer and the outer layer. A lot of skirts have that. I think there's an official word for it, but I do not remember it at the moment. Okay, so they're connected along the waist. Zipper keeps going to about there. So, the tricky part is I don't necessarily want to sew up the whole zipper. So I think if I'm careful, then I can sew along these edges. Because it goes into the fabric there, you can see. That's where the layers are different. But I think as long as I don't sew through the zipper itself, I can probably tidy that up a little bit. Let's see. Let me find some matching thread first. Goodbye, leftovers. Yeah, so Cinder's really fun, as well as the other books in the series. I really love, like, all the characters have such fun interactions. It is very, like, hetero. There's no gay people to be found. Wah! I think there might be in, like, some of the very later books, but most of it, like, there's, like, a love interest for each of the female protagonists, and they're all dudes. Wah. But, you know, that's how it goes with stuff. So I would recommend what's this series called? The Lunar Chronicles. That's what it's called. But they're all super fun. They're quite cool. And then the other book that I had was Ringer, Not All Birthdays Are Welcome. This is another one by Jerry Spinelli, the author of Maniac McGee. This one is quite a bit more serious, I think, than Maniac McGee. Look at that. Jerry Spinelli. Jerry Spinelli. I'll suppress my button. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Oh god, don't fall over. Pile of books. I keep pressing buttons. Go away. Okay. Whew, whew, whew. So, this is a very interesting one that you can see this one has an award on it. So basically this is, I mean, it's like a somewhat real phenomenon, but also like sort of over-exaggerated for the sake of a story, is there's a tradition in the town this boy lives in where they have pigeon shooting contests. And so they'll send all the pigeons, they'll lock them in a big old box and then send them up over the town, and they'll have shooting contests to see who can take the most down. And because they are not always killed on that first shot, there is a special job that they give to little boys in the town once they hit a certain age, where they will be tasked with ringing the necks of the pigeons so that they have a quick death and are not just like lying on the ground suffering, which is pretty brutal, but like also a thing that did happen. Probably not in like the fanatic sort of way of like this town where they like hate all pigeons, but you know. And so basically there's a little boy who he has a pet pigeon that lives at his house. He like feeds it. It like is out on his balcony. He keeps it a secret, never lets his family find out about it. And then he hits the birthday where he has to then murder pigeons, and he like wants to save his pigeon. And I think he ends up like ending the practice because he's like, this is dumb and I don't like it. Let's just use like clay pigeons instead. It's too much blood. It's gross. Which, like, yeah, he's fucking right about it. It's pretty nasty. But he ends up, you know, not doing it and sort of standing up for himself and being like, I don't want to commit murder. Thanks. Yeah, bad choice of a pet considering. He like, knows it's wrong the whole time. He's like, I shouldn't do this. I know everybody here is like, no to pigeons. Pigeons suck. They're rats of the sky. They're evil little creatures. But he still has a pet and he cares about it and is like, I don't think this is evil. I think it's just like an animal and you shouldn't hate it as much as you do. Why do you hate it? And I think that's a good like lesson. Like that applies to a lot of things. Like that's sort of, you know, it's bigotry in a nutshell. It's like, I don't understand this. I've got all these like stories about it. I think it's gross because that's the story that I have been told throughout my life, and that story may not be completely true. And it's good to think for yourself and realize like, hey, you don't have to do all the things that adults tell you to do, that society tells you to do. There are other options. There's an option where you don't wring a pigeon's neck for, you know, whatever reason. I would say no good reason, but it is kind of a good reason. Yeah, so he manages to take down that sort of norm, which is cool. And I think it works as a good metaphor for a lot of things. The way that, like, Maniac Manky talks about racism and the way this talks about... Like, I think it is a book about, you know, kind of bigotry and about, I guess, like, love animals, sort of. But I think it's mostly just, like, about working on a metaphorical level. I think it's a good lesson. Like, you don't always have to do what you are told. Sometimes adults are wrong, and you know they are wrong. I think that's something that I relate to a lot, because, like, especially in my teenage years, I was always very frustrated by adults who would be like, you're just a kid, you don't know anything, and I'd be like, maybe I don't know everything, but I do know there are some things that I know, and there are some things that I know that you don't, because... You know, as a teenager, I know way more about, like, queer stuff than any of the adults in my life. They're all fucking weird and making bad jokes. And they'd kind of make fun of me because, like, I remember once I left the room, like, my uncle made like a really transphobic joke, and I was like, you know what? I don't have to sit here for family dinner. Goodbye! And I left the room, and I heard everybody kind of laughing by me, like, oh, there goes Brooklyn, didn't like that one. And I was like, no, I don't like that one, because it was fucking bigoted and wrong. And, like, I don't know about taxes or how much houses cost, sure. But I know that that is a fucked up joke to make that I don't like, and I don't have to sit here for it, and that's something that I know. I think everybody has their own knowledge and their own things that they know. Like, even you, there's things that you know that I don't know. You probably know more about Steven Universe than I do. I kind of fell off with watching that show. I didn't watch it all the way to the end, so you probably know more about it than I do. There's lots of things that everybody has knowledge that they can impart to each other. And I think it's kind of shitty that we always are like, just because of your age, you deserve respect. No, kids deserve respect too. Kids know more than me about dinosaurs and cars. I don't know about that shit. They do. They're cool for knowing that shit. We should acknowledge that. That's my little treatise on be nice to kids. Haha. Everybody has things they know that others don't, and I think that should be respected. So that's something like that this book talks about and that I like and relate to. So this book gave me my whole moral framework. Not my whole moral framework, but part of it. The next one is another one that I mostly love for the illustrations, but also there's one particular story in here that I love. It is the Candlewick Book of Fairy Tales. Oh yeah, that'd be fun. I think I watched like I stopped watching like right after Peridot appeared. I think that's about where I stopped. But this just has the most gorgeous illustrations, like the velvetiness of the fabric on her dress. Oh, it's gorgeous. Like, look at this cover, and then it's got, like, the cover on here. And it's a book of little fairy tales. I mean, it's a lot of ones you may know. There's Snow White in here. Let's see. The ones they have are Puss in Boots, Snow White, Frog Prince, Hansel and Gretel, Six Swans, that I'm going to talk about, the 12 Dancing Princesses, Sleeping Beauty, Rapunzel, Beauty and the Beast, and Cinderella. Yeah, it's fucking gorgeous. So there's Puss in Boots, which is a story that a lot of people haven't actually heard. He fucking fights an ogre. It's basically just, like, about this cat that goes and rescues people from a lot of weird shit that happens to them. He's, like, working for everybody. He, like, saves a dude who's, like, one of the... What does he do? Oh, he says the Marquis is drowning! Robbers have stolen my master's clothes and thrown him in a river to drown! And then the king gives him new clothes. I fucking love the new Puss in Boots movie. It is so good. Hell yeah. And he tells the peasant to do all this. And then he, like, ends up meeting an ogre and ends up beating the ogre. And so the princess and the poor miller's son were married and lived happily ever after. Puss gave up hunting, hung up his boots and his hat with the plume, and lived a life of luxury at the palace for many years. So he helps, like, a dude fake his way into becoming a king. Hell yeah. Ugh, look at her fucking dress. Like, this is probably one of the things that made me love, like, fashion. I'm just like, ugh. The succulent fabric of it. Snow White and the Dwarves. Creepy old lady. Come on, please focus. Please. Camera! It's not focusing. I need a better camera. She's got her little box of shit. Snow White in the window. Oh, these are also, like, the Grimm versions, I think. Or, like, based on it. So, like, they fully murder her at the end. What is it? The wicked queen stormed off to the wedding. When she saw that the bride was none other than Snow White, she was transfixed with fury, unable to move. 2 iron shoes were heated till they were red hot, and the wicked queen was made to put them on and dance until she dropped down dead! So they're like the weird versions. And then there's the Frog Prince. Oh my god. Again, like the silkiness of the fabric. Luxury. Luxury. She's like, get out of my bed! And he's like, I need you to solve my curse? bitch. The spookiness of the woods of Hansel and Gretel. Ah, she looks so happy. I wish she just could have been a nice lady. Come on. And they convince her to climb into the oven and then burn her up. 6 Swans. This is a fairy tale that no one has ever heard of, really. But I fucking love this. I'll probably read it on stream someday because I just adore it. I don't think I'm going to do that today because my voice is already getting kind of tired. But the witch queen marries a king, and he hides his children away in the forest because he's scared that the witch queen will take advantage of them. Eventually she finds them, and she turns all of the sons into swans. The daughter comes back later. All the 7 sons are turned into swans. The daughter comes back later, and she finds advice on how to cure them, and she has to not speak for 7 years. Okay, for 6 years you must never speak, and each year you must weave a shirt of star flowers, one for each of us. In some versions it's thistles, basically a sharp, pointy flower that hurts her hands, and so she has to make all of these shirts. And then a young king decides to marry her, and they have children, and the king's mother steals away all of the children that she has, and makes it look like the queen did them, and they decide to burn her alive. And by now 6 years had passed. 5 shirts of starflowers had been made, and as the fire was being built, the young queen... Oh, it's only 6 swans. I'm bad at counting, I'm sorry. Whoops. As the fire was being built, the young queen sewed and sewed at the 6th. Soon she had finished it, except for one sleeve. The star queen was brought out, and the fire was lit. The flames began to crackle and rise high in the air. Then a beating of wings was heard, and 6 swans flew out of the forest. As they swooped to untie the queen, she threw a starflower shirt over each of their heads. Instantly, 6 princes stood before the queen, but in place of an arm, the youngest prince had the great white wing of a swan. And she explains, like, this is what really happened, and all of that, and figures it out. So then the 12 dancing princesses, which, like, I love the more complicated version, because it talks about all of the things they go through. So an old soldier, like, all of these young dudes are there, and then, like, an old, decrepit, like, veteran comes and is like, I'll fucking figure it out. I don't really feel like marrying them, but, you know. So they walk through a forest of silver, and they walk through an avenue where the leaves were all of pure gold, and another where the leaves were all of glittering diamonds. So fun! Yeah, how about 12 kids? 12 female children. Jesus. And then they go across the lake, and he figures out, and he brings back a branch from each of the avenues as proof, and then he gets them all caught. And then there's Sleeping Beauty. Look at this. Look at her. She's, like, so grumpy. I love it. Like, all of the, like, old women, they're, like, simultaneously, like, trying to make them gross, but also she's gorgeous. I love her. Yeah. Sims game. And then Sleeping Beauty goes and gets pricked through the Palace of Thorns. How do they murder her? Doesn't say. Rapunzel! She ate the rampion greedily, and by morning she was asking for more. So they stole from the witch's garden. She stole their daughter, locked her up, put her in a tower. You know. And then she cuts Rapunzel's hair, convinces the prince to come out, and then throws him down the tower, at which point he gets thorns in his eyeballs and goes blind. And then Rapunzel has to cry directly into his eyes in order to unblind him. That's how it works. That's how you unblind a bitch, is cry directly into their eyes. Okay, I guess. Sure. That works. Oh, it's so weird, but I love it. So I think that's like... Yeah, it happens that way in Into the Woods. But I think that's a very interesting version. The way they do it in Tangled is she cries, and that ends up curing her prince, quote unquote, he's not a prince, of the stab wound that he gets. So she still has, like, the healing power in her tears. I think it's an interesting way to do that without the trauma of blinding a character. So Beauty and the Beast. Oh my god. Look at him! Look at his face! Again, gorgeous clothes on the girls. Gorgeous hairs. He's so grumpy. He's so mad. And then eventually, I'm a prince! Beauty and the Prince were soon married and lived happily ever after. As for the jealous sisters, they were turned into statues and stood in front of the prince's house and frightened away pigeons. Okay, bitch! Cinderella, Cinderella. Look at the ugly stepsisters. I love them. Look at them. They're not ugly, they're gorgeous. Come on. And then she has her fairy godmother and her carriage. And all the rats and the newts that turn into her people. Look how sad he is. And then they find the shoe, and ta-da! That's the end of the book. It's great. It's just, I love the illustrations so much. And it also has 7 swans in it, which, like, a lot of books don't include. And I love the story of the 7 swans. I actually read a bigger novelization version of it semi-recently that I really loved. I don't know. A lot of people are like, this fucking 7 swans is stupid because, like, why would you give up all of your everything for your family? But I'm, like, an extremely self-sacrificial person, and I'm like, yeah, I would, like, not speak for fucking 6 years and not fucking do any shit for, like, that long because I love my little brother. God, everybody is such a bitch. Yeah, but I don't know. It could be considered, like, kind of shitty that she has to go through all that for no good reason, but I love my family, and I would do that for my family, so, like, whatever. Yeah, but it's a great... I love little fairy tales, and that one has some of, like, the harsher endings, specifically, which is fun. Love seeing some good old revenge. Alright. I know, right? I'd just fucking shut the fuck up. It wouldn't even matter. Also, like, the one thing is, like, why would you not, like, write? Like, you can still write, yes? I mean, maybe it's because it's, like, an older tale and not everybody could write in, days before, you know, a formal education system. Like, maybe it's something related to that, but I'm like, just, like, write your hubby a note. Tell him, no, I'm not murdering the children. It's your fucking mom, bitch. Whatever. So weird. Yeah, but I read a great book, and it, like, you can actually make, clothing out of thistles, which is really interesting. And it talked all about that, about how, like, if you do it in a certain way, like, you have to do all this stuff in order to make them. But it talked about, like, the process of making clothing out of natural fibers, which was really interesting. I love learning shit about, like, how to make clothing and items out of natural fibers. That's so fun. That's why I like the novel version, too. Plus, like, she gets, like, I think on full moons, her brothers turn into it, or it's, like, once a year or something, I don't know. Where she can speak to her brothers again. That's in, like, both versions of the fairy tale. Long and short. And so she's, poor thing is so lonely, though. I think in the novel version, like, one of her kids was one of her brother's kids that she had to take care of because her brother was, like, a swan and can't raise a child in those conditions. And so she was, like, kind of given the child of, like, please let my wife know that my child is okay. Like, God, that's depressing. My dad is a swan. Oh, boy. Oh, God, don't fall. This one might also have some rips within the script itself. This is one that, like, the fabric is just very thin, so it rips a lot. Zeus, is that you? Good one. The other book I have... Oh, wait, I have 2 more? Yeah, okay, I have 2 more. I want to work on this for a second. The other one that I have is a book called Lookalikes which is sort of like an I Spy book, but it's just fucking great. It's basically an artist made all of these little cityscapes using like found objects, and then the point of the book is to, can you find a balloon? Can you find a thing? Can you find this? And you gotta find where all of those appear within the cityscapes. But like, there's more than just the stuff that they list. There's, the whole thing is made out of like coins for manhole covers and like a balloon for a dress and all of this great stuff. It's so fun. And that's like the sort of I Spy thing. Like that would also like make cityscapes, but out of like miniatures and blocks and stuff, which is so cool. And this does a version of that I really love. I Spy, but with the theme, yeah. Discover a land where things are not as they appear. So, like, that's like a grater, but with little things on it. This is like some brushes all stacked together to make a boat. Those are Fig Newtons, CDs. Ugh, it's, you could look at it for hours, honestly. This little clown with paint tubes for legs and a little hair tie for his balloons. Where do peanuts look like teddy bears? Or carousel horses you ride at fairs? In Look-alike Land, the magical spot where everyday things look like what they're not. A balloon is a dress. Pistachios are flowers. Lookalikes can keep you looking for hours. More than 100 objects in each scene, but 2. Find some or all, it's up to you. For you puzzle hounds who like to keep track, a complete list of lookalikes appears at the back. So come with me, I'll be your guide to all the wonders you will see. So here's the fucking train that has all the great stuff in it. Like, those are bottle caps and a clock. It looks like the engine's a huge coffee pot! Ah! Look for lookalikes right in this tunnel. See the top of the newsstand? It looks like a funnel. And then I think there's like... yeah, it tells you all of the things that appear. Like in the train station, there's keys, windshield wipers, dominoes, flashlights, kazoo, badminton rackets. It tells you all of this stuff. And so you can like look at that and then look at like, oh, there's like the scissors and oh, where's the keys? And like, ugh, it's fucking great. Ah, look at it all. I love it so much. Her hair is a peanut. Her hair is a seashell. It's so fun. A razor that vacuums is really quite handy. Or how about a lamp that looks like mint candy? It's great. The mix of like miniature replicas, like the people are mostly like just replicas, and then these are like kind of just replicas, but then like all of the other stuff that they put in is so fun. And then there's the park. Oh, so cool. He's got a leaf on his head. A huge spinning wheel that looks just like scissors. Fancy hotel. Glove couch. I would love that. If there was a movie with that aesthetic, I would be so down for it. Are you kidding me? I love miniatures and stop motion and all that shit. Let's make a stop for chocolate shakes at Stanley's Sweet Shop. Hell yeah. Ah, the circus. Oh, this little clown lady. I love her so much. She's got like a hair tie and she's got garlic for legs. Fuck off. That is so fun. The time has come to sail away, but please come back another way. Another day. Yeah, and then all the lookalikes as they list them. So fun. Joan Steiner is a graduate of Bernard College and self-taught artist. Her unique three-dimensional creations have appeared in New York Times Magazine, Games Magazine, Nickelodeon, and Sesame Street Magazine. The recipient of numerous art and design awards, including the Society of Illustrators Awards and a National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship, Miss Steiner lives in Calverack, New York. Hell yeah, Miss Steiner. Your book fucks severely. I love it. It's a good fucking book. So it really is something that you can just look at for hours and hours, finding all of the little things that have been worked in, all of the different stuff. Like, the amount of work that must have gone into it. It's truly impressive. I love it a lot. It's great. So, like, me and my brother and my dad would all look at it for hours. My dad was, like, the designated storyteller in our house. He would always keep us up way too late. That's actually my other favorite childhood book, or story, isn't story that doesn't technically exist. My dad, I love him. He made up all of these stories when me and my brother were kids about Jimbo and Jimbo's friends, and he would just make up stories like off the cuff as he was putting us to bed and just tell stories about like all the little things, like Jimbo and his friend the princess, and like they had a dog named Cisco who was like the dog that our aunt and uncle had named Cisco, but not that dog Cisco, a different dog named Cisco. He looked exactly the same, but it was a different dog. Which is such a funny little detail. And there was like a unicorn that they met and all of this different stuff. And like often when our dad was telling us stories, my mom would come in and be like, dude, you have to put the kids to bed. They're supposed to be asleep and you've been telling them a story for like 3 hours. What are you doing? But it's just so fun to listen to the stories, and we'd be like, more, we don't want to stop. It's so great. So I think he's definitely a big inspiration for like fucking like making up all this stuff. He read us The Hobbit. That was one of the books that he read us. He would also read us books before bed. And The Hobbit is one of the ones he read. He loves J.R.R. Tolkien. He also he kind of fucked up. He was watching the Lord of the Rings movies, and I was like, ooh, a movie I want to see. And he was watching the extended edition, and I was like, The Lord of the Rings is the most boring movie I've ever seen. Why does anybody like this? Because it was the extended edition, and it's really long and really boring. It's good for nerds, not good for people who are seeing a movie for the first time and are, you know, uninterested children who need more, like, things happening per minute than that fucking provides. It's so fun. So he's definitely someone who inspired, like, me being a creative person and telling stories and thinking of stories and stuff. He's always been encouraging about creativity in general. Like, anytime me or my brother would do any sort of art or storytelling, he'd be like, yeah, that's so cool. Hell yeah. And so he's always been super encouraging about that. It's great. And he's an engineer, so he will build things. That's the sort of things that he does. And I'm more like visual arts and like writing. But he loves all sorts of art. As long as you can see like that there's creativity behind it, he loves it. And so that's always been really encouraging for me to, you know, try and do art, and he'll always love it no matter what it is, as long as it like is creative. That's the part that matters, and I love it. Thank you, Dad. Love you. Yeah, so that's one of the books that we would all read together and look at, the Look-Alike book, and point out all the cool things in it and all the things we could find. Okay, I gotta make sure I'm not going through the zipper. Eek. Gonna put that there and try and clip some of these loose threads a little bit. I think I want to go along this line and then maybe go back here a little bit. And then I think this is the final book that I have for today, is Anthony Ant's Treasure Hunt, which is just a fun little, this is another like finding things book, but it's got all these different things. Come on. So this tells you like, how do you find all these things? Where are they? There's like a secret, these are all the things. There's one in like each like level, each page of like, here's the diamond bracelet, where's the ruby ring, where's the fantastic pieces of the thing. And they're trying to find all of the jewelry in the queen's portrait. And he's got all his little friends who will appear in all of them. So it's very much a finding things book. But, like, the way that it is done is so fun because there's a million little flaps and things. Like, there's someone in the closet, and someone in the bath, and someone in the door. And it's all of his really friends. And then you have to find, where's the bracelet within the house? It's somewhere in there. You gotta find it. I don't know. Is it on the table? Nope, it's just cookies. And so it's a great little book to look through. And then there's like this spooky cave with all the things. And all of his little friends. And there's the fucking, look, vampire. I just love you. Whatever ways. He's gonna suck your fucking blood. And within the church, there's all the people running around. There's a fucking, it's the church mouse. It's coming to eat you because they're bugs. Oh, so fun. The fucking sarcophagus. 1 layer. 2 layers. Wow, it's the mummy. So cool. The mines. And this is where the crown is hidden, and you have to find 6 pieces of the crown. And all of these on this page I love. There's a worm in this one. There's gold in this one, except it's actually fucking mechanical driller. The red ant mine. Oh my god. I don't know. Where's the daddy? And then they gotta go back, and they found all the jewelries to bring to the queen. Open up the doors, and there she is! Queen Weevil the First. Ooh, a little spooky. Peekaboo. It's such a fun little book. That's another one that me and my brother would just, like, read for hours and hours of, like, finding all the little details on the pages, finding all the little shit. It's so fun. Yeah, but then where's my thing? I need to adjust this really quick. I want to talk about Murderbot now. I want to talk about Murderbot now. If you don't want to listen, then fuck off. This is not a book that I read as a kid. This is a book that I read as an adult. I am currently rereading it because I reread it fucking often because I love it that much. It's good. It's fucking good. Please read Murderbot. So this is a great book, and it's a series called The Murderbot Diaries, which is about the future where there is a security robot who has hacked its government module, which means that it no longer has to follow the rules. I think, like, the first line... I should probably read the first line. Let me actually just fucking find it. I have to type now. Oh god. Will you give me the excerpt, please? Where's the first line? No, where is it? Yes, talk to Murderbot about its feelings. The idea was so painful I dropped to 97% efficiency. Oh, wait, is that the first chapter? Yes, give me the preview, please. There it is. I could have become a mass murderer after I hacked my government module, but then I realized I could access the combined feed of entertainment channels carried on the company satellites. It had been well over 35,000 hours or so since then, with still not much murdering and probably, I don't know, a little under 35,000 hours of movies, books, serials, plays, and music consumed. As a heartless killing machine, I was a terrible failure. And that's the first line of the book, and it's so fucking good. It is a little bit... You know what? No. It's not Detroit Become Human. That game fucking sucks. That game is shitty about AI, and I do not agree with its AI opinions. I have the most based and big-brained AI opinions, and Detroit Become Human has the most small-brained, dumb AI Become Human ideas. AI can be so much more than what we think it is. And this book is a great way of showing it. Like, basically Murderbot is, look at this robot, look what you did, you gave it anxiety. It's about a poor, anxious motherfucker just trying its best to do its job, despite all of the horrible things that are happening around it. And I think it's great because of the way that it doesn't embrace humanity, because the typical story arc would be Murderbot becomes friends with its humans, becomes more okay with physical touch, wants to act like a human, tries to look like a human. No, Murderbot doesn't want to do that. Murderbot wants to sit in the corner and watch fucking movies. It wants to watch its shitty television, and it wants you to not talk to it. That's what it wants to do. And despite its best effort, it loves saving humans, and it wants to save the humans. One of my favorite fucking scenes in this book is where one of the humans is like, it goes and she goes and pats Murderbot on the shoulder, and it's like, that's too much human attention. I went and stood in the corner with my back facing the humans in the room. Oh my fucking god, just like, there's too much attention on me right now. I'm literally going to stand in the corner and be grumpy. Like, what the fuck? That's so fucking funny. And like, the biggest mood. Are you kidding me? Like, there's too much attention on me right now. Excuse me as I go stand in the corner and refuse to look at any of you. I love it so much. It's so good. And yeah, it's a whole series about just like the life and times of this poor motherfucker being bullied into having friends. It's great. I recommend it 1000%. It also like is a pretty, what I think is a somewhat realistic take on what capitalism might look at like in the future. One of the short stories is called The Future of Work Compulsory. We're like, oh, good job, you win, 10 out of 10, I'm so proud. When you're in the future of like capitalist hell, the only work that you can do is like, you're in massive debt, you can't get out of it, you have to do it, and like, human life is not worth as much as machine life. And it's a little short story released as a bonus that is like, Murderbot is like there to protect the equipment, not really the humans, but because it's hacked the government module, the thing that forces it to do things, it ends up jumping into a fire pit and saving a human and being like, we have 35.5 seconds to get out of here or we will both be incinerated, and saves a human and then goes on with its fucking day. And the human's like, it talked to me, oh my god! And everyone's like, no, they don't talk. Everybody thinks they don't talk. They do talk. They just don't talk often because usually it's not, necessary. It's great. It's wonderful. One of the other great things is that Murderbot makes friends. It has good friendships with some of the humans, and specifically with Art, the asshole research transport, which is a very, very advanced computer. Basically a bot pilot, so, like, most of the spaceships are being steered by bot pilots, which are, usually not as sophisticated, but this one, as a project, is like a full AI, and is like super smart, and is like, I'm gonna let you on my ship and let you take a ride with me, but I am going to criticize every one of your actions on the way to our destination, and like helps Murderbot act more like a human, and like helps it out in all of these fun, unique ways. It's great to see. There it is. I knew there was a fucking tear in this somewhere. Okay. Might need more thread. I'll just keep going for now. So it's just such a fun series. I finished it all within like a couple weeks. The first few are all novellas. They're fairly short reads. And then there's one full length. And oh my god, this year a new one is coming out. I'm very excited for the new one to come out. And that one is also apparently full length. Hell yeah. Murderbot is such a badass though. Like, it's a cool, like, action-y thriller kind of thing. It's like, sometimes it plays with the idea of like horror, but from the perspective of the killer. Because Murderbot is like a scary motherfucker. It can kill you. Most of the time it won't, because what's the point? It doesn't want to do murder, it wants to watch television. It's great. Hi, welcome. I don't know. I wish it was a movie. It would be so cool. I don't know. I think it is a little hard to adapt because it is all from the perspective of this robot. And like, that's one of the reasons why it shines so much, because it is from the perspective of this robot, and like all of the funny little asides and quirks. Whoops. Sorry, maybe another day. I need a break from that game for a minute. Thank you. But we're sewing today. I'm gonna fix my skirt. Yeah, it's 'cause it's fucking hard. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give a break for a minute and then recover. Yeah, glad to see you again. I'm doing alright. Whoa. Just chilling. It's finally sunny today, which, thank God. Like, if it had been snowing for much longer, I would have gone insane. I was going insane. It's sunny today, though, so I'm like, okay, I can recover from my mental health crisis of it won't stop fucking snowing and I need it to be springtime. I can see the grass. The grass! Oh, it's been so long. Can't regulate my emotions in this kind of conditions. The conditions being bad weather. Yeah, Murderbot Diaries is such a fun series. But the whole book is from the perspective of Sec Unit, the Murderbot in question. Just like giving its perspective on all of the shit. It's super fun. And that's one of the reasons, like, movies in general have a difficult time with narration, I think. It can be very awkward to put into movies. Some movies have been, like, ruined by narration. Like, everybody's like, if this movie didn't have narration, it would be good. It's a very difficult thing to put in. I think, I saw someone who had, like, a pretty good take. I've also been, like, relentlessly going through all the fandom tags, because I can't help myself. I'm very much like, it's all or nothing. I'm obsessed with this one thing and must consume all about it at the moment. So I've been falling back down that hole for Murderbot for a minute. But someone had a very good take of, like, maybe the... What the fuck? How did you get there? Oh, God. I need to undo this. I went through a weird place. Why is there a stitch there? I didn't want to put a stitch there. Come here. Get out of there. Motherfucker. I didn't mean to do that. Someone was like, here's a cut together version of, like, because Sec Unit often has, like, a lot of camera inputs going on at once. And so putting together a version with, like, multiple camera inputs and, like, multiple scenes on screen at once, and, like, it has to have narration, basically, because that's, like, the whole point. But, I don't know, it's just, I think it's a little bit hard to adapt it into a movie, which is one of the reasons it hasn't been made one. But, like, you should read it. There's a great audiobook. I've heard the audiobook is really good. I haven't actually listened to the audiobook myself, just because I kind of have a bad attention span for audiobooks lately. I'll probably listen to it someday, but I think that's a good choice if you don't want to read books. But also, like, they're really short and they go really fast because they're gripping and entertaining. It's a good book series. It's so fun. Read Murderbot Diaries, everybody, please. Oh my god. This is a book series that, like, there was one particular scene where I read it, and then I had to, like, get up and walk around the room and just be flabbergasted for a minute before I could go back to it, because I was like, oh my god, that just happened. Oh my god, that just happened. And I just had to, like, walk around the room and, like, process it for, like, 10 minutes, because I was like, what the fuck just... Oh my god, that was the coolest shit I've ever read, but also, oh my god, what the fuck... It's so funny. Oh, so fun. So yeah, it's a good book series. Yeah, and apparently the next one is like a follow-up on what happened in the most recent book, which is like, oh god, because what happened in the most recent book is a lot. It's a full-length novel, unlike most of these are shorter. It's great. I also, they're all on Libby, the library app. If you don't know, Libby is a great app. That's where I managed to finally fucking read Flawed Dogs. I was trying to find it from the library, and they didn't actually have it at my local library, because I guess nobody thought it was popular. I think that's where I found it the first time, but since I was a child and became an adult, everyone was like, no, we don't like Flawed Dogs anymore, and I was like, So I managed to read that one on the Libby app. But, what was I saying? Yeah, the Libby app is great. It has audiobooks available. It has real books available. Not everything is available on there, but a lot of stuff is. So you should definitely give it a look when you have the time. All you need is a library card, and you got it. It might not work in non-American countries, but I know it works great for me. And it's free, so who cares about Audible when there is Libby? Thank you. That has been my piece. A lot of the books are also available, like, they're published through Tor.com, and there's a couple of her short stories are available on there, which are good, and also, like, she's got based opinions about science fiction. Like, some of the books that she's recommended are also really good. But it's fucking cool. It's a very... I like it because it's compassionate and funny in a way that science fiction, it feels like, isn't always. It's a very humanistic sort of AI story, where they are not always. Like, it does bring up those sort of questions of, like, what does it mean to be human? But also, like, you don't have to be human. You can be what you want to be. And if that's, like, a weird, anxiety-riddled dude, then sure, that's the kind of dude you can be. It's fun. Trying to be delicate with this, because this fabric is very prone to ripping, unfortunately. So I probably need more thread soon. I'm just doing a simple back stitch, go one way, then go back, go one way, then go back. Yeah, I think I might tie this off and get more thread, because I don't want to run out. Oh god, I'm getting all tangled underneath here where I can't see. Yeah, so I like rereading a lot, and so it's fun to look back on books that I've read in my childhood. I've read a lot of books, like, multiple times. Like, pretty much all the books I showed today I've read many times over. Because I'm just someone who likes rereading and rewatching quite a lot. But, you know, it's also interesting to see, like, some of those books, like, I can tell they had, like, an effect on me and on my sort of philosophy about things. And some of them are just, like, fun stories that I like. But, you know, I think there is something to be said for, like, children's books should probably have good morals. But also, I think, you know, children's books should also be scary sometimes. And, like, you talk about sanitizing books for children, but I think a lot of kids, like, they want to be scared. They want to read horror. Yeah, I've been a big reader for most of my years. Oh god, I keep accidentally going through the fabric because it's so thin and easy to do. Ugh. Come here. Yeah, I think, I mean, there's different books for everybody, you know? It's like most media. There's movies that I wouldn't like that you might like, and there's books that I might like that you might not like, and there's something for everybody. See, what happened? Why'd you do that to me? Oh, it's like further back too. Oof. Come on. There we go. Let's just tear this off and get a new one then. I would recommend reading because it's sort of like webcomics in that way, which is, I'm probably going to do a sewing and webcomics day sometime because I fucking love webcomics. But like, when stories are being told by just one person, the things that that people come up with are so fascinating and cool. And that's one of the things that I love. Like, big movies and stuff, not to say that they're bad, but they, like, go through production processes, and they have lots of... Webcomics are hard to make, like, yeah. They go through production processes, and they have people, you know, weighing in on them and deciding what they should do, and all of these different steps. And so they are often, like, polished, and they're unwilling to interact with certain subjects that things like webcomics and books and things that are made by just one person are willing to interact with and talk about. Like, the ideas of one person on the internet are infinitely more insane than anything you'll see in a modern day movie. And that's one of the reasons why I love webcomics and stuff. Because people are so creative, and seeing the ideas that they can come up with are great. And that's one reason why books are cool, because they're almost always written by just one person. Ooh. It's lunchtime. I'm going to finish up this tear, and then I'll be done, and then I'll come back and play more Bug Snacks in the afternoon. It'll be fun. Yay! But I love webcomics for that reason, and I love books for that reason, that they're just made by one person, just trying their best, and they can be whatever. They can be whatever you imagine. It's cool. They can have entirely unique ideas, and nobody's telling you that, you know, that's not allowed or whatever. It's just whatever your wildest imagination can come true in those sorts of situations. And it's great. Yeah, I think it depends on what books you have. Like, if you just, like, have a bad time with attention span, audiobooks are a great format. Like I said, I loved the Graveyard Book audiobook. I used to listen to it before going to bed as a kid. And it's good because it's sort of split up into little vignettes and stories. Like, they all have a conclusion, but it's like all these different events that happen throughout the main character Bod's life. And they're sort of disconnected. They're just like the things that could happen to a kid who lives in a graveyard. And they're not really connected, but they're still fun little stories to tell. And that's a good thing for when you're, like, trying to fall asleep to it, as if they're not super connected. Yeah, I gotta put together, like, a formal list of all my webcomic recommendations, because there's a lot of them. Like, I made a list the other day, and I was like, this isn't even all of them, and Jesus, there's a lot. There's a few different categories of it, too, which is interesting. Like, nowadays, there's like webtoons, which are webcomics. Generally, that's a word. Like, there's an official website called Webtoons that has some things that I would consider traditional webcomics and some things that I would consider more so webtoons. And on that website, like, I basically think webcomics made by, like, multiple people, by more of a committee. Those are what I personally count as webtoons, which are not a bad thing. Some of them are really good. I've really loved some webtoons that I've read. However, they're a little different from webcomics because they'll often have, like, an author, an illustrator, a colorist, and maybe, like, even more than that. Usually, like, that base team at the very least, and then they might have, like, someone doing backgrounds, or someone doing, like, just the flats of colored, and then someone doing the shading of coloring, and all that different stuff. So they're more of a production. They're also released on a very different schedule than most webcomics, in that they'll have, like, a chapter a week, instead of most webcomics will have a page a week, or maybe a few pages a week if it's an author has a lot of time on their hands. But I think that the one thing about webtoons that sort of frustrates me is when they set up an expectation for people. Because, like, that was one thing I was talking to my roommate about, of, like, oh my god, I've been reading this webcomic forever, and I've been, like, waiting for this to happen for, like, 3 years, and I'm so excited it's finally happening. And he was like, that's too long to make you wait. Like, that's kind of a dick move. And I was like, I mean, no, like, I think it's a well-paced story and it's taking the time it needs. And, like, this is one dude making all of this. Like, that's the thing about webcomics is it's one person making all of it. It is an enormous amount of work. That I get 1 page a week, that is impressive. Like, wow. Someone made an, like, entire illustrated page every single week. What a fucking gift. And it's, like, for free on the internet. They're not getting fucking paid for it. And so I think the one thing is that webtoons can sometimes set unrealistic expectations for, like, the delivery rate of a comic, because they'll often do, like, an entire chapter per week, which, like, works for them, but it's also because they have a staff. They have multiple people. And I've never been, like, upset about waiting for webcomics, because I very much understand, like, it's one dude making this all in their own time. It's cool. I don't mind waiting. I might complain about it a little, but I don't actually care that much. That's one of the things that I'll complain about and not really mean it. I think it's funny to complain about things sometimes. Like with construction, I'll be like, oh my god, it's the worst. I don't actually care. I can sit in the car forever. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Oh god. My tail was too long again. There it is. Okay. Yeah, so I really love webcomics. All the things that they're capable of are great. Webcomics are often a lot more, like, queer and transgressive. Yeah, I complain because complaining is fun. That's usually the reason I'm complaining, is because I'm like, this is entertaining to, like, jabber on about some bullshit. I mean, the reason why I'm like, I complain that I'm like, I've been waiting for this for years, it's like, that's showing how much I fucking love this comic, is that it's able to create such an emotional response in me. Like, that is a testament to its power and its ability to be a good comic. If I'm, like, feeling this emotionally invested in, like, these fictional characters, that means it's a good damn comic that I'm, like, willing to stick around for years. I think that's one of the things that can also be difficult with webcomics, is it's very easy to sort of drop out of them and be like, okay, it's been a while since the update, and I'm kind of losing interest. That's something that's happened way more often for me with webtoons than it has with webcomics. Sometimes I think I just get, like, overwhelmed by the amount of them, and I'm like, this is not really worth it to me. It's not really worth it to keep up with it. Like, and with webcomics, I've not really felt that way. I mostly, like, lose them because I accidentally delete my bookmarks, or, like, move to a new computer and have to redo my bookmarks, and then I'm like, I don't want to redo my bookmarks, so then I'm like, okay, fine, I'll catch up with that one day. I think, like, that's one of the things that can be intimidating, is catching up with a long-running webcomic, and you're like, oh god, I have to read, like, 8 chapters? Are you kidding me? Oh no! And that can be intimidating for me. And that's one of the reasons why I've, like, dropped webcomics in the past, because I'm like, there's so much and I'm never going to catch up. Oh god, oh god. Which is more of my problem than, like, a problem with the genre or medium itself. But, you know. Whew. Getting all tangled up. But I still love them. There's still a lot of really good ones. And I do generally love, like, independent ones way more than I've ever loved, like, big ol' webcomics, you know? The ones that, like, rewrite my fucking brain chemistry have all been, like, little independent comics and not bigger ones. I'm getting close now. Yeah, so that's something I'm gonna put together and maybe have another sewing day where I'll talk about webcomics and just go insane about them for 3 hours. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, that's how you got One Punch Man, man. And that's, like, a hugely popular and famous story now. I wish more webcomics got that popular. There's so many that I'm like, everybody should know this exists and nobody does. I guess they're harder to advertise than, like, some other things. But, I mean, that's the way with books, too, is, like, books and webcomics are something where it's very easily to stumble upon something that you're like, this is so good, no, how has no one heard of this? It's very easy to do that with both of those because they're just very independent projects and they're sort of only known in their niche circles. Oh god, come on. Come here. It's all tangled, there we go. I do love that, like, some webcomics manage to get, like, published in physical copies. That always makes me feel happy when I'm like, we get a physical copy. I have a physical copy of the webcomic Devil's Candy, actually. That's what this background is from, too. I love it. Love you, Devil's Candy. Such a good comic. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Oh my god. This is getting irritating. Come here. Stop getting caught. You bitch. Woohoo. Oh god, did I go through the fabric again? Yep, I did. Why is it so easy to do with this fucking skirt? Wah! Come here. Stop it. Hey-ya. Good God. Oh, gotta do that again then. Ta-da! Just jam to the tunes. Where did I put my thimble? There it is. Ooh. Readjust. And there we go. This is one of my favorite skirts. I'm glad I'm finally getting it so I can wear it again. I missed you, baby. Gotta make sure you go through 2 layers. Okay. I think one of my favorite webcomic artists who I mentioned when I was going through all of my graphic novel recommendations is Emily Carroll, who has her own website, just emilycarroll.com. But like the best horror comics, so good, unbelievably impressive. The way that she can make a very, very creepy story that will like stick with you, make you think about it. Okay, just a couple more to go. Almost done, almost done. Then I can stretch. I've been sitting too long, getting sore. Gotta stretch and get some water and stuff. Boop. Okay. 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 Ooh. there's any other childhood books. I've been trying to remember them these last few days of, like, ones that I read. I read Percy Jackson as a kid. That was another one that I quite liked. It's a very fun story. It's good and relatable for kids who don't fit in. That's a good thing that it excels at. Also, I know I read, because I have it on my shelf, Alexander and the Evil Librarians, or whatever. However, I remember almost nothing about that book. I was like, oh yeah, there's this book. This exists. What the fuck was it about again? I don't fucking know. That one is by Brandon Sanderson, who is pretty cool, but also somewhat lame, because he is Mormon, which is a huge fucking L. But, you know. I don't think I read those ones. I have not heard that name before. Okay, now I just want to do this little tear. Which is going to be a slightly different technique. Because I'm just going to do it on the inside instead of trying to go on both sides of the fabric. It'll be a little bubble, but since it's all a gathered skirt, it won't look that bad. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I think I read the Fablehaven books as a kid. That's another one that I don't really remember well, but I know I read them. Yeah, I might check it out. I don't know if I have room. I gotta reread Murderbot right now. That's the one I'm focusing on. But maybe when I have a minute, I can try and pick it up. There you go. Got my tail stuck in there. Okay, straighten yourself out. Ta-da! There's a lot of really good kids books out there. I think I generally prefer reading, like, YA novels to adult novels, just because, I don't know. I don't feel like a fucking adult. You think I'm an adult? I don't think I'm an adult. I think they're generally more relatable with, like, the emotions that are going on. I'm like, I don't want to do all the adult stuff, thanks. I'll just read about teens, because I can relate to a teen more than I can to an adult sometimes. Okay. Gonna call it done. Let's tie it up. That doesn't sound familiar to me either. I recently saw A Bad Case of the Stripes at the library, which is a great little book about be yourself, but a girl, like, desperately wants to be what everybody else wants her to be. And so she develops a case of the stripes where, like, every time someone says something, her body will reflect that. Like, if they're like cheetah print, then she'll look like a cheetah print, or like they're like polka dots, and she'll suddenly have polka dots on her skin. And the way that she gets out of it is by eating lima beans, because she secretly loves lima beans, but she knows you're not supposed to like lima beans, so she won't tell anybody that she likes lima beans. And then she eats a big old plate of lima beans and decides to be herself, and her case of the stripe is cured. It's a cute book about, like, being yourself. That's a little just illustrated picture book. Okay then, all done. Yay, I can wear this skirt again. Hooray. Alrighty then. I'm gonna take my lunch break. Yeah, good Be Yourself book. I will be back in a little bit. I'm gonna play more Bug Snacks this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you then. Bye-bye!